Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We are so glad to have you with us today.
It's great to be here.
So we are opening up a file that I have to admit, at first glance, might seem a little mundane.
Agrees.
It's not about rocket science. It's not about the fall of Rome. And it's definitely not about the future of artificial intelligence. It is about something much closer to home.
Literally.
Literally. We are talking about the chair you might be sitting in right now. Or the awkward silence you felt in the elevator this morning.
Oh, that feeling.
That feeling. Or, and this is a good one, the immense relief of taking off a pair of tight shoes at the end of a very long day.
It sounds so simple, doesn't it? But when we actually started digging into the source material for this deep dive, which, by the way, comes from a really fascinating discussion in the Advanced Learner Studio with their hosts, Emma and John, we realized we're dealing with something deceptively complex.
We are.
We're looking at the entire lexicon of comfort and discomfort.
Exactly. Yeah. And the topic on the surface, it's simple, but our mission today is to really just shatter those two words, because let's be honest with themselves, how often do we use them as a kind of shield?
A shield. That's an interesting way to put it. I like that.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. You run into an old acquaintance, maybe at the grocery store. They ask the classic question, how are you? And you say,
I'm fine.
I'm fine.
Yeah.
Or I'm comfortable. It's a reflex. It's a complete autopilot response. But are you actually fine?
Rarely. I mean, almost never, right? You might be physically tired from carrying the groceries or socially anxious about this unexpected conversation, or maybe you're just bored out of your mind. But I'm fine is, what's the social contract?
It is.
It's the beige paint we just slap over the actual, the architecture of our real feelings.
And that is exactly what we want to scrape away today. The source material argues pretty forcefully that comfort and discomfort aren't binary switches. It's not just on or off.
Not at all.
They are these massive, sprawling spectrums. And the argument that Emma and John make, which I think is just brilliant, is that if you don't have the specific words to describe where you are on that spectrum, you can't really understand your own experience.
It's the whole concept of emotional and physical granularity. I mean, if your only word for feeling bad is just bad, you're kind of stuck.
You're lost.
You're lost. But if you can distinguish between feeling frustrated, melancholy, anxious, or maybe just physically stiff, then suddenly you have a map. You can actually identify the problem and, potentially start to fix it.
So let's unpack this. Here is our roadmap for the next hour or so. We're going to start by exploring what the source calls the spiritual level of comfort, which sounds a little lofty, I know, but stick with us.
It's worth it.
Then we're going to dissect the specific, visceral agony of social awkwardness, then the biological toll our environment takes on our focus, and then finally, the big paradox of why we actually need to be uncomfortable to get anywhere in life.
So we're really moving from the body to the mind to the social world, and then finally landing on, I guess, the philosophy of growth. It's a full spectrum analysis.
It is. So let's just jump right in. Section 1, the ideal state. And the source material, it starts by basically throwing the word comfortable right under the bus.
And rightly so. It's such a passive word, isn't it? I am comfortable usually just means I am not currently in pain.
Right.
It's just the absence of a negative rather than the true presence of a positive. It's a very, very low bar to set for our existence.
It is. The source suggests a few alternatives like cozy, which I like.
Mm-hmm.
It implies warmth and safety, or maybe content, which has that feeling of inner peace.
Mm-hmm.
But then they drop this idiom that I think frames the entire conversation perfectly. Like a fish in water.
Oh, I love this one. And we need to really, really unpack it because on the surface, it sounds a little cliched. We hear it all the time.
We do.
But if you think about the biology of it for a second, a fish in water isn't just comfortable in the way a person is comfortable on a sofa. It's a totally different state of being.
Right. A person on a sofa is resting. They're passive. A fish in water is living.
Exactly. The water is its element. It's about the perfect, seamless match between the organism and its environment. When a fish is in water, it has basically zero friction.
Zero friction.
It moves with grace. It breathes without even thinking about it. It hunts. It thrives. It implies competence.
Competence is a key word there. I hadn't thought of it that way.
Yeah.
Because if you take that same fish out of the water...
It's chaos. It's total chaos. It's gasping for air. It's flopping around. It's clumsy. It is quite literally dying. And the source makes this great point. The fish itself hasn't changed.
Right, it's the same creature.
It's the same creature. It has the same fins, the same gills, the same abilities, but the environment has shifted, and suddenly all of its natural, brilliant abilities are completely useless.
That is such a powerful metaphor for human experience. I mean, we all have those moments where we feel like the fish on the pavement.
Absolutely.
The source uses a scenario that I think every single listener will resonate with. The transition from the commute to the sanctuary.
The commute, the great universal experience of struggling against the world.
Picture it. I mean, just put yourself there. You're on a crowded train or you're stuck in traffic. It's loud. It's unpredictable. Maybe it's raining and the windows are all fogged up. You're being jostled by strangers.
Your brain is on high alert.
Constant high alert because you have absolutely no control over your surroundings. You are completely out of your element.
Your cortisol levels are spiking. Your body is scanning for threats, even tiny ones. You are surviving, not thriving. You are effectively the fish out of water.
But then you get home, you walk through your front door, you close it behind you, and that simple click of the lock shuts out the noise.
It's like a soundproof barrier goes up.
It is. You go to your desk, or maybe it's your favorite chair, you sit down.
And you can feel the systems powering down. The tension in your shoulders just releases.
That shift, that exact moment, the source describes this as the moment you enter your natural element. And it's not just that the chair is soft, right?
No, it's so much more than that.
It's that you know where the lighting controls are. You know where your favorite pen is. You understand the physics of the room. All of that friction just disappears.
That is the fish in water feeling. It's about agency and control. You are in a setting where your natural abilities can just flow perfectly. You aren't fighting the friction of the world anymore.
And interestingly, the hosts of the source, Emma and John, they identify this as the spiritual level of comfort.
That word spiritual, it kind of caught me off guard at first, too. It feels a bit heavy for a discussion about, home offices and comfy chairs.
Right.
But I think they mean it in a more secular, kind of existential sense. It's that deep feeling of being exactly where you are supposed to be. When you are like a fish in water, you aren't questioning your place in the room. You aren't wondering if you belong there. You just are.
That is a high bar, a really high bar. I feel like most of us, most of the time, we settle for, well, my shoes don't pinch.
That's the baseline, yeah.
But aiming for that fish in water state, that profound sense of belonging and competence, that's a total game changer for how we design our lives, isn't it? It asks us to look for environments, for jobs, for relationships, where we aren't just surviving, but where our specific, unique skills perfectly fit the context.
It is. It's a huge shift in perspective. But, you can't really appreciate that high unless you understand the low.
Good point.
We have to look at the other side of the coin.
The spectrum of discomfort. And this is where the source material gets really, really granular. They break it down into two main camps, the psychological and the physical.
The head game and the body game.
Let's start with the head game. Psychological discomfort.
This is what they call the edge.
On edge. I feel like I live there about, 40% of the week.
Size. I think that's pretty standard. It's a very evocative phrase, isn't it? On edge. Geometrically, if you are on the edge of something, a cliff, a building, you are in a precarious position.
You're unstable.
You're unstable. You're balancing. You are using a ton of energy just to stay still.
It implies the imminent threat of a fall.
Precisely. The source describes being on edge as a state of heightened anxiety or anticipation. It's not necessarily that something bad is happening right now.
It's that it might.
It's that something bad might happen at any second. It's the threat. It's the waiting.
The example they give is so universal. It's the feeling before a high-stakes presentation.
Classic, the green room feeling.
Yes, you're in the green room or you're standing backstage. Your nerves are just completely shot. You can't sit still. You're pacing back and forth. It's that vibrating, humming energy.
The shoe hasn't dropped yet, as the saying goes, but it's dangling right over your head.
And notice how that purely psychological state manifests so physically. You can't relax your muscles. Your shoulders are up by your ears. You are literally braced for impact. That is the definition of instability.
It is. But there is another type of psychological discomfort they mention, which I found even more interesting because it's so much more subtle. They call it being itchy.
Itchy. Okay, so usually that's a mosquito bite. But they're using it metaphorically here.
Exactly, a psychological itch. Think about when you walk into a room and a picture frame on the wall is just slightly crooked.
Oh, that drives me crazy.
Right, or when you leave the house and you have this nagging, persistent suspicion that you left the stove on, even though you know you probably didn't.
It's that nagging feeling, the did I or didn't I loop.
And the host, Emma, she points out that this is the discomfort of ambiguity. You can't quite put your finger on what is wrong.
Which is the absolute worst part. You can't scratch the itch if you can't locate it.
Exactly. If you know you are stressed about a big deadline, that's concrete. You can make a plan. You can break it down. You can execute. But a psychological itch is vague. It's a low-level background radiation of just unease.
It's exhausting.
It creates a huge cognitive load because your brain is constantly scanning, trying to find the source of the error. It's like an open loop in your mind that you just can't close.
It's like having a browser tab open somewhere in your brain that's playing faint music, but you have 100 tabs open and you can't find the one to close it.
That is the perfect analogy. And while all of that is happening in the mind, the body has its own very rich lexicon of misery. The source gets very specific here regarding physical sensations, words like stiff, achy, cramped.
And they go straight to the scenario that unites all of humanity in shared suffering. The long-haul flight and economy class.
The great equalizer. The modern torture chamber. Slavs. It is the perfect definition of cramped. You are confined. Your range of motion is severely restricted. You've got the person in front of you reclining their seat into your lap. The person next to you is fighting you for the armrest.
And your knees are jammed into the seat pocket. And what's so interesting about a physical discomfort like that is how it traps you in the present moment.
In a bad way.
How do you mean? Well, when you are cramped or your back is stiff, you can't really think about the future. You can't daydream effectively. You can't plan. Your entire world just shrinks down to the size of that seat. It's immediate and it is demanding.
It demands all your attention. You're constantly shifting. You're trying to find that 1 inch of relief, that one position that doesn't hurt.
It does. It completely hijacks your focus. And speaking of things that demand attention and refuse to end, we have to talk about the idiom the source uses for laborious, frustrating tasks. Like pulling teeth.
Oh, I use this one all the time, usually when I'm talking about administrative paperwork or trying to get a straight answer out of a teenager. Blah.
Yes. It's so visceral, isn't it? Why teeth? Why that specific image?
Yeah.
Because teeth are rooted deep in your jawbone. They're not meant to come out.
Right.
To remove one requires force and leverage and usually a fair amount of pain and struggle. It feels unnatural.
The source contextualizes this not with dentistry, but with a meeting. Specifically, a meeting that circles the drain without ever reaching a resolution.
Oh, we have all been in that meeting. The one that could have been an email.
Absolutely. The agenda is vague. People are just repeating the same points over and over. You are trying to get a simple decision made, and it feels like you are physically dragging the entire group toward the finish line.
It's excruciating. You leave that meeting feeling more exhausted than if you'd run a 5K, even though you just sat in a chair for an hour.
And that idiom perfectly captures the frustration of unnatural effort. It's not just that the task is hard, it's that it feels like you are forcing something that fundamentally doesn't want to move.
It is the absolute opposite of the fish in water. It is maximum friction. It's swimming through mud. So we have the mind on edge, the body cramped, and our tasks feeling like pulling teeth. That's a trifecta of misery right there. But we aren't done. We have to look at the container we're all sitting in. Section 3, environmental factors and sensory input.
This is where we talk about the external world basically attacking our internal world, and the biggest culprit they identify is temperature.
The source gets a little poetic here, but I think it's very accurate. They talk about being chilled to the bone.
I've always found that phrase fascinating. To the bone.
Yeah.
It implies that the cold has bypassed all your defenses, your coat, your skin, your muscle. It's not just on you. It has penetrated your core.
It's an internal cold.
It's an internal cold. It feels debilitating. It makes you feel fragile and small.
And on the flip side of that, you have the heat. The words they use are sweltering, melting.
Melting is such a descriptive word for that feeling of extreme heat exhaustion. When you're that hot, you feel like you're losing your boundaries. You get lethargic. Your thoughts get slow and kind of soupy. You literally feel like you are losing your solid form.
The key insight here from the source, and this is something I think we often overlook, is the profound impact this has on our focus. The expert in the source, John, he argues that when the body is busy fighting the environment, whether it's shivering or sweating, focusing on complex mental tasks is nearly impossible.
It's a resource allocation issue in the brain. Your brain is a survival machine first. and a thinking machine second.
Right.
If it detects a thermal threat, too hot or too cold, it prioritizes homeostasis above all else. It says, okay, we are freezing. We need to pump blood to the core organs. We need to shake the muscles to generate heat. It does not care about your spreadsheet.
Yep.
It does not care about the email you are trying to write. It hijacks the CPU for survival tasks.
It goes right back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You can't reach self-actualization if you are, hypothermic.
Exactly. And this leads to a theory that John posits, which I found really compelling. He suggests that we often view comfort essentially as the absence of negative input.
Talk a little more about that. What does that mean?
Well, it's a negative definition. We tend to think of creating comfort as adding things. Adding a soft pillow, adding a warm blanket, adding a piece of chocolate.
Sure.
But he argues that often the true state of comfort is just the removal of the bad data. It's achieving silence. It's the lack of pain. It's a neutral, unnoticeable temperature.
To illustrate this, they use the old fairy tale of the princess and the pea.
Which is a story that's often really misunderstood.
I agree. People think the princess is just spoiled and high maintenance. But if you look at it in the context of sensory processing, she's actually a great example of hypersensitivity.
Exactly. She has 20 mattresses. She has all the luxury, all the positive inputs. But there is one tiny, hard object, a single pea at the very bottom. And that single point of negative input completely overrides everything else.
It's the stone in the shoe phenomenon. We've all had that. You could be wearing a $3,000 suit. You could be walking down a red carpet on your way to accept an award. But if there is one tiny pebble in your shoe, your entire reality, your whole consciousness collapses down to that one pebble.
This is a psychological principle called focus narrowing. The brain is wired to ignore the 99 good things, the soft bed, the nice view, the room service, and focus entirely on the one threat or irritant.
It's an evolutionary mechanism, I guess.
It is. If something hurts, pay attention to it. It might be a predator. But in the modern world, it means our entire state of being can be derailed by the smallest, most insignificant things.
And this is why, as the source points out, creature comforts are so important.
Creature comforts. I love that term. It sounds so primal, so fundamental.
It is primal. The source defines these as tangible amenities that contribute to our physical ease. The simple things: warm blankets, a hot bath, a really good cup of high-quality coffee.
The little things that aren't so little.
Exactly. But look at what those things do functionally. A warm blanket isn't just nice. It directly combats that chill-to-the-bone feeling. It sends a signal to the brain saying, you are safe, you are warm, you can stop shivering, and you can start thinking again.
The coffee combats the mental fog. They are, in essence, countermeasures. They restore our baseline so we can function.
There was one specific creature comfort the source mentioned that I think is the most modern one of all. It's maybe the only one that didn't really exist 100 years ago: noise-canceling headphones.
Yes, the bubble of silence, a modern miracle.
In a world of what they call acoustic chaos, creating silence is a genuine power move.
It goes right back to that absence of input theory. If comfort is the absence of negative input, and the modern world is just screaming at you with traffic and notifications and construction and open plan office chatter,
then shutting all of that off isn't just a luxury. It's a necessity for achieving that fish and water feeling.
Exactly. It allows you to reclaim your environment. It lets you create a sanctuary where there wasn't one before. It's like putting up a little force field for your brain.
Okay, so we've got our physical environment sorted out. We've got our headphones on. We've got our coffee. The thermostat is set to a perfect 72 degrees. We are physically, finally, comfortable. But then the most dangerous and unpredictable variable of all enters the room.
Another human being.
The ultimate disruptor.
Yeah.
Section 4. Social discomfort, the agony of interaction. And the host in the source, Emma, she notes that this can be just as painful, if not more so, than actual physical pain.
And that's not just a figure of speech. It's actually backed up by neuroscience. The brain processes social rejection and acute embarrassment in very similar neural pathways to physical pain.
Wow.
A broken heart and a broken leg will light up some of the same warning centers in the brain.
Why is that? What's the logic there?
It's evolutionary. For a social species like us, exclusion from the group meant death. If the tribe kicks you out, you didn't survive for long. So that feeling of social awkwardness is the brain's ancient warning signal that you are in danger of being ostracized. It is deeply, deeply visceral.
The idiom they use here is perfect because it describes a desire for total, immediate annihilation, wishing the ground would swallow you up.
It's so dramatic, but it feels so accurate in the moment. It's a plea for complete disappearance.
It is. It's saying this moment is so unbearable, the social exposure is so intense that I would rather the earth literally open up and remove me from existence than continue standing here for one more second.
That is the definition of extreme discomfort. And the source does a great job of breaking down the specific scenarios that trigger this geological escape fantasy.
The first one is a killer, the pregnant pause.
I've always found that term pregnant so interesting in this context. It means full of. The silence is an empty space. It's heavy. It's full of unspoken meaning, full of anticipation, and usually full of cringeworthy awkwardness.
It's that moment in a conversation where the rhythm just breaks. You say something, and then nothing. Crickets. You're waiting for the other person to catch the conversational ball, and they just watch it drop to the floor and roll away.
And in that moment, the seconds feel like hours. You become hyper-aware of your own breathing, your posture. You start frantically wondering, did I offend them? Did they not hear me? Do I have spinach in my teeth?
And usually, in a panic, someone breaks that silence by doing next thing on their list, putting their foot in their mouth.
Which is just a fantastic idiom for verbal clumsiness.
I am a master of this. I think I have a black belt in putting my foot in my mouth.
I think we all do at times. It means accidentally saying something offensive or deeply embarrassing or just incredibly stupid.
You say it, the words hang there in the air for a split second, and you immediately realize,
oh no,
I cannot undo that.
And that's when you start looking for the hole in the ground to swallow you. But the expert in the source, John, he adds a really complex and important layer here. He points out that social comfort is hugely culturally relative.
This is so crucial, especially for anyone listening who works in an international team or travels a lot. What is comfortable in one culture is painfully awkward in another.
Take something as simple as conversational distance, what anthropologists call proxemics.
Right. How close do you stand to someone when you're talking?
In some cultures, you see this in parts of Latin America or the Middle East, for example. Standing very close is a sign of warmth, of trust, and engagement. It's comfortable. It says we are connected.
Okay.
But if you take that exact same physical distance and apply it in, say, Northern Europe or parts of North America,
Red alert, sirens. You were invading the personal bubble.
it creates immediate anxiety. The person instinctively steps back to reclaim their comfortable space. The other person, trying to be friendly, steps forward to maintain the connection, and you end up doing this awkward little dance across the room.
Or what about eye contact?
Same thing, totally different rules. In some places, intense, direct eye contact shows you are listening and you're honest. In other cultures, it's seen as aggressive or disrespectful, especially to an elder.
So if you're navigating a cross-cultural interaction, you are constantly walking through this invisible minefields of unspoken rules. You might be creating what the source calls social friction without even knowing you're doing it.
That's a great term for it, social friction. It's that feeling where the gears of the conversation are grinding instead of flowing smoothly. It just feels itchy.
So how do we recover from these moments? Because we can't just hide under the bed every time we say something dumb. The source hints that navigating these moments requires a specific skill set.
Humor is the big one. And self-deprecation. Owning the mistake. If you put your foot in your mouth, just admitting it often diffuses the tension immediately.
You just call it out.
You call it out. Wow, that came out wrong. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
It restores the comfort because it shows authenticity, and it breaks that horrible pregnant pause with a laugh.
Which brings us to a really interesting pivot point in this entire deep dive. We've spent all this time talking about how to get comfortable, how to avoid the cold, how to avoid the awkwardness, how to find that fish in water state. But Section 5 asks a dangerous, almost heretical question. Is comfort always the goal?
The paradox of growth. This is where it gets really interesting.
The source starts talking about the comfort zone.
A term we hear constantly. It's become such a buzzword in self-help and business.
But let's define it based on what we've just learned. The comfort zone is simply the space where you are the fish in water.
That's a perfect way to put it. It's the fish tank where the temperature is perfect, the food is delivered on schedule, and there are no predators. It's safe.
But here's the paradox. While we crave that safety, development, real growth, requires friction. If the fish never leaves the calm water of the tank, it never learns to swim upstream against a current. It never gets stronger.
This is what the source calls constructive discomfort.
I love that term, constructive.
Yeah.
It acknowledges that the discomfort is there, it's real, it's unpleasant, but it has a purpose. It is actively building something.
It's not pointless suffering.
No. The examples they give are things like taking a pottery class for the first time, where you feel totally and utterly incompetent.
Oh, yeah. You're clumsy. The clay is flying everywhere. You are definitely not a fish in water. You are a fish on a pottery wheel. You feel foolish.
That's a messy image.
But that feeling of incompetence, that psychological itch of not knowing what you are doing, that is the literal growing pain of learning. If you only ever do things you are already good at, you stagnate. You stop evolving.
Oh, the other big example? Public speaking.
The ultimate constructive discomfort for many people.
And the source brings up the classic physical symptom, butterflies in the stomach.
It's a perfect description, isn't it? It's a physical manifestation of psychological anxiety. What's actually happening is the blood is draining from your stomach to your large muscle groups, the ancient fight-or-flight response, and you feel that fluttery, almost nauseous sensation.
But here's the hack. The expert in the source, John, explains a tool mentioned in the material, cognitive reframing.
This is so powerful, and it's backed by a ton of modern psychology. The insight is that physiologically, the state of anxiety and the state of excitement are almost identical.
Really? I wouldn't have thought that.
Think about it. What happens in your body? High heart rate, sweaty palms, those butterflies. Hyper alertness. Your body is just surging with adrenaline and energy. It doesn't actually know if you are about to give a career-defining speech or ride the world's biggest roller coaster.
So the body just provides the raw energy, but the mind is what provides the label.
Exactly. It's the mind that interprets the data and writes the headline. If you label that sensation as fear, you freeze up, you crumble. But if you consciously choose to label it as excitement, you can harness it.
So when you feel those butterflies starting, instead of saying to yourself, I am terrified, you literally tell yourself, I am excited.
I am amped up. My body's getting ready. I am ready to go. You reframe the discomfort as fuel. You learn to use the friction to propel yourself forward instead of letting it hold you back.
That is a life skill right there. That simple change in language turns the edge from a place you might fall off of into the place you were about to jump from.
Beautifully put. It transforms the sensation from a threat that you need to avoid into an opportunity that you can embrace.
Okay, that brings us to our final section, Section 6, subjectivity and authenticity. This is where we bring it all home and make it personal.
This is where the rubber meets the road. Or perhaps more appropriately, where the foot meets the shoe.
Yes. The source brings up a debate that I think has divided humanity for centuries. The suit debate.
To wear the suit or not to wear the suit? That is the question.
The host in the source, Emma, she brings up the conflict. For some people, a suit is restricted. It's stiff. The collar feels like it's choking you. The fabric doesn't breathe. It is, by definition, uncomfortable.
It is the opposite of cozy. It is a physical constraint.
But for other people, the source says that same suit provides armor and confidence.
This is the core of subjectivity. There's a concept in psychology called enclothed cognition. It's the idea that what you wear systematically changes how you think and act.
So for one person, the physical constriction of a suit actually feels like a comforting hug or like a suit of protection. It makes them feel professional. It puts them in the fish and water mode for a business setting.
But for the other person, it's a straitjacket. It makes them feel fake and trapped and they can't think straight.
The source basically outlines two opposing philosophies here. Look good, feel good, versus comfort is king.
And John, the expert in the source, he lands firmly on one side of that debate. He says, and I'm quoting here, if my feet hurt, my brain doesn't work.
I am 100% with John on this. Happy feet, happy life. That's my motto.
It's a question of functional priority. For him, if the negative physical input, the pain from the tight shoes, is too high, it becomes the princess and the pea all over again. You can't possibly focus on the high-level strategy meeting because your feet are screaming at you.
But the look good, feel good crowd would argue that the psychological boost you get from looking sharp and professional actually overrides the minor physical discomfort.
And that is precisely why it is subjective. There is no single right answer. It depends entirely on how your personal spectrum of comfort is calibrated. Are you more sensitive to physical input, or are you more influenced by psychological framing?
But the source leads us to an ultimate definition that goes way beyond just clothes. They start talking about authenticity.
This was the most profound part of the whole discussion for me. They define true comfort as creating a sanctuary of the self.
A sanctuary of the self.
Yeah.
That sounds deep. Let's break that down.
One's dropping the facade. It's not just about whether your furniture is soft or your clothes are loose. It's about consciously creating an environment, both socially and physically, where you can stop pretending.
Where you don't feel like you have to hold in the pregnant pause, where you don't have to constantly worry about causing social friction, where you don't have to give the autopilot answer, I'm fine.
Exactly. It's a space where you can just be without apology, without performance.
That connects right back to the beginning, to the fish in water. The fish isn't pretending to be a bird. It isn't trying to fly.
Right. It is authentically a fish doing fish things, perfectly aligned with its nature.
So true comfort isn't just a lack of pain or a lack of friction. It's the active presence of your real self.
That's the ultimate takeaway from their discussion.
Wow. Okay, let's try to synthesize this whole journey because we have covered a massive amount of ground here. We started with the mission from the source to move beyond the bland beige label of I'm fine.
And we realized that to do that, we need emotional granularity. We need a richer vocabulary to distinguish between being merely content and being truly competent, like a fish in water.
We mapped the whole landscape of discomfort, the psychological itch of ambiguity that drives us crazy, the vibrating feeling of being on edge before the shoe drops.
We talked about the physical misery of being cramped in an economy seat and the laborious, soul-crushing frustration of tasks that feel like pulling teeth.
We learned that our environment is not just background noise. Being chilled to the bone or melting in the heat actually shuts down our higher brain functions.
And that we can fight back with our creature comforts, our coffee, our headphones, our little bubbles of silence, to reclaim our focus and our baseline.
We face the agony of social awkwardness. The pregnant pause, the foot-in-mouth moment, the desperate desire for the ground to just swallow us up. And we learned that these are often culturally relative landmines.
And then we embraced the great paradox, that we absolutely need constructive discomfort in order to grow, that we have to learn to reframe those butterflies in our stomach as excitement, not as fear.
And finally, we landed on the big idea that true comfort is deeply subjective. It's about what makes you function at your best, whether that's a suit of armor or a pair of old sneakers. It's about building that sanctuary of the self.
It's a surprisingly comprehensive look at the human condition, really, all starting from two simple words.
So what does this all mean for you, the person listening to this right now? How do you apply this to your life tomorrow morning?
Well, I think the big thing is about awareness. The source material emphasizes nuance over and over. If you can name the specific feeling, you can begin to manage it.
Right. If you realize you are itchy psychologically, you could stop scratching blindly at your life and start looking for the actual root cause. Is it an unresolved task? Is it a conversation you've been avoiding?
Or if you realize you are on edge, you can try that cognitive reframing trick. You can pause and ask yourself, am I afraid? Or is my body just getting ready for something important?
And here is a final provocative thought we want to leave you with. We talked a lot today about finding and creating comfort, but where in your life are you currently masking discomfort?
Oh, that's a good one. A tough one.
Where are you tolerating a low-level itch because it's easier than finding the source? Are there places in your life where you are holding a pregnant pause that has lasted for months or even years in relationships, in your career?
Are you wearing a metaphorical suit, a job, a role, a persona that feels like a straitjacket just because you think you should? Just because it looks good to the outside world, even if it's cramping your soul?
The source reminds us that stepping out of the linguistic comfort zone and the physical comfort zone is where fluency happens. Not just fluency in English, but fluency in life.
You have to feel the friction to find the flow. You have to be willing to be the fish out of water for a little while in order to find a bigger, better pond.
So our advice is, don't be afraid to be a little uncomfortable today. It might just be a sign that you're growing.
Well said.
Thank you for diving deep with us into the lexicon of our own sensations. We hope your day is, well, cozy.
Or at the very least, authentically yours.
Catch you next time.
Goodbye for now. Welcome back to the Deep Dive.
Glad to be back.
So I want to try a little something to kick things off today. A little experiment.
Okay, I'm game.
I'm going to say a word. And I just want you and everyone listening to, just mentally log the very first image that flashes into your mind.
Got it.
Okay. Ready. The word is comfort.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I have mine.
What did you see? because I'm willing to bet it was something soft.
You'd win that bet.
Right. Like a duvet, a memory foam pillow, maybe a pair of those cashmere socks you see in catalogs.
For me, I immediately pictured a very specific armchair. A big worn leather one right in front of a fireplace.
Exactly. See, and that is the default setting for almost everyone. We process comfort as a tactile sensation. It's about physics,
Right.
The absence of hard edges.
The physical state.
Yeah.
Softness. Warmth.
But the more I've been digging into the research for today's dive, specifically this really fascinating breakdown from the Advanced Learner Studio, the more I realize that definition is actually, well...
It's wrong.
It's wrong. Or at least it is woefully incomplete.
It's surface level, completely. If you just stop at softness, you miss the entire mechanism of why we actually feel at ease.
The why of it.
Right. Comfort isn't just about thread count. It is a rigorous, a really complex psychological negotiation. It's a game that's being played between your amygdala, your prefrontal cortex, and whatever environment you happen to be standing in.
And that is what we are unpacking today. We're going to look at what we're calling the architecture of ease.
I like that.
And I don't mean architecture in the sense of, building a house. So we will get to lighting and furniture later, believe me.
Oh, we will.
I mean the internal architecture. How do our brains construct a state of ease when the world around us is, frankly, pretty chaotic?
And it usually is.
We're going to cover a ton of ground. I mean, from the neuroscience of why you can't sleep even when you're exhausted to the social agony of trying to leave a boring conversation.
That one is universal.
It's a specific kind of panic, isn't it? All the way to why your brain practically short circuits when you hear someone chewing gum.
It's really all about one word. Regulation. That's the key word for this entire deep dive.
Regulation.
How do we regulate sensory input? The sounds, the lights. How do we regulate social friction? Because if you can understand the mechanics of how comfort works, you stop being a victim of your environment.
You can take control.
You can actually hack the system. You can build your own comfort.
And we have a lot of case studies to get through, including some absolute disasters that I think will make everyone feel a little bit better about their own life choices.
There are a few cringeworthy moments, for sure.
Just wait until we get to the camping story. It is a masterclass in what happens when you ignore biology in favor of, just vibes.
Very, very painful masterclass.
Okay, but let's start with the brain itself. The first big concept from our research is this idea that comfort is effectively mind over matter.
Right. Which sounds like a cliche, but the science here is really solid.
We have this assumption, I think, that physical sensation is absolute. If I pinch you, it hurts. If a seat is cramped, it's uncomfortable. End of story.
It's a direct input-output system, right?
Yeah.
That's the common sense view. The nerve sends a signal, the brain receives it, you say, ouch, but that's just not how the brain actually works.
It's more complicated.
So much more. The brain is an editor. It's a curator. It's constantly choosing what to highlight and what to ignore based on a process called attentional gating.
Attentional gating. Okay, break that down for us.
Imagine your brain is a bouncer at a very exclusive nightclub.
Okay.
There are thousands of sensations trying to get in the door every single second. The temperature of the room, the little tag on the back of your shirt, the hum of the refrigerator, that dull ache in your lower back from sitting all day.
Constant barrage of information.
A total flood. Now, if the bouncer let everyone in, the club would be absolute chaos. You'd be completely overwhelmed. So the brain prioritizes. It decides who gets in. And the fascinating thing is high-level cognitive engagement.
Like being really interested in something?
Exactly. Being totally engrossed. That is the VIP guest. And if that guest shows up, the bouncer has instructions to kick everyone else out.
I think this perfectly explains the economy seat paradox that was mentioned in the case study.
Oh, this is a great example.
We've all been there. You are on a 10-hour flight. You're crammed into seat 34B. The seat pitch is 29 inches, which I'm pretty sure is a violation of the Geneva Convention.
It feels like it should be, yeah.
Your knees are literally jammed against the hard plastic of the tray table. Your lower back is seizing up. I mean, objectively, your body is screaming at you.
It's a high-distress physical environment. There's no question.
But, and this is the key, the study points out this phenomenon where if you are reading a book, and I don't mean just skimming, but you are truly deeply engrossed in a narrative.
Voskene.
Or if you're watching a movie that has you on the edge of your very cramped seat, the pain doesn't just bother you less. For all intents and purposes, it effectively ceases to exist.
It's a form of dissociation. But, a healthy functional dissociation. When you're deeply immersed in a story, All your neural resources are being allocated to simulating that reality.
You're in that world.
You are. You're visualizing scenes, you're processing dialogue, you're predicting plot twists. That is an incredibly heavy cognitive load. Your brain literally does not have the bandwidth to also process the somatic signal coming from your cramped knees.
So the signal is still there, the nerve is still firing.
The signal is still being sent by the nerves, absolutely. But the brain isn't picking up the phone. The call is going straight to voicemail.
I've noticed this with work too. I mean, if I'm really in a flow state, writing or editing, I can sit in a terrible wooden chair for 4 hours and not feel a single thing the second I stop working.
Agony.
Instant, excruciating agony. It all comes flooding back.
Exactly. The anesthesia of engagement wears off. And that's why the source material argues that the most important tool for comfort on a long trip isn't a neck pillow.
It's a good book.
It's a good book. Or a complex puzzle. Something to hijack your own attention span and use it to override your physical reality.
There's another example of this that goes even deeper, which is hiking.
Oh, yeah.
I have friends who are obsessive hikers, and they will walk uphill for 8 hours carrying 30 pounds on their back. Now, if you broke that down purely by physical sensation, it's torture.
It's just a list of negative inputs, lungs burning, blisters forming on your feet, muscles tearing and screaming.
Right. I mean, if you did that same activity in a windowless room on a treadmill, it would be considered punishment.
It's literally a stress test.
But they come back and describe it as the most comfortable, the most rejuvenating experience of their lives. And the research suggests this is because of one specific, very powerful emotion: awe.
Awe is a very potent drug. When you finally reach that summit and you see the panoramic view, or you're in a dense forest with the light filtering through the trees, your brain releases this cocktail of neurochemicals.
The good stuff.
Dopamine, endorphins, even oxytocin. But psychologically, awe does something very specific. It diminishes the self.
What do you mean by that?
It shifts your focus entirely outward. You feel small in the face of something vast and beautiful. And when the self shrinks, the self's physical complaints shrink right along with it. You're not thinking about your blister anymore. You're thinking about the vastness of the horizon.
So comfort isn't just softness, it's distraction, it's awe. It's really about where you choose to point the camera lens of your mind.
Precisely. And this leads us to a really crucial distinction that the research makes. We need to stop looking at discomfort as this single, monolithic, bad thing.
There are different flavors of it.
There's constructive discomfort, and then there's what we can just call friction. They might feel similar in the moment. Your heart rate might go up. You might start to sweat. But they do very, very different things to your brain and your life.
Okay, let's talk about constructive discomfort. This is the good pain.
This is the discomfort of novelty and growth. The case study uses this great anecdote about a pottery class.
I love this story.
So one of the subjects, a guy named John, decides he wants to learn how to throw clay on a wheel. Now, John is a competent adult. He pays his taxes on time. He's good at his job. He can navigate the world.
He feels in control of his life.
For the most part, yes. But he walks into this art studio, sits down at the wheel, and suddenly he is completely and utterly inept.
The description of this is so vivid. The clay is wobbling all over the place. It's flying off the wheel. He's covered head to toe in this gray slime.
He feels clumsy. He feels foolish. He feels stupid.
And that feeling, that I am bad at this feeling, is visceral. It's a real blow to the ego.
It is, because we spend most of our adult lives curating environments where we feel competent. To voluntarily step into a situation where you know you'll be incompetent, that's incredibly uncomfortable.
So why is this categorized as positive? Why is it a good discomfort?
Because that specific discomfort is the feeling of neuroplasticity. That's your brain waking up. It's firing on all cylinders, mapping new coordinates for your hands. It's learning the physics of centrifugal force on the clay. That feeling is the growth zone.
So if you're perfectly comfortable all the time,
you're stagnant. Constructive discomfort is the price of admission for a richer, more interesting life.
Okay, so that's the good stuff. Now let's talk about the bad stuff, the useless suffering.
Yes.
The research calls this social friction. And there is one scenario that I am convinced every single person listening has experienced, and it induces a very specific cold sweat kind of panic. The awkward exit.
Ah, yes, the social hostage situation.
You are at a party or a networking event, which is even worse. You're talking to someone, maybe they're perfectly nice, maybe they're mind-numbingly boring. It honestly doesn't matter. The conversation has run its course.
It's over. The well is dry.
It is dead. But You cannot find a way to leave. You are physically trapped by the invisible walls of politeness.
It's amazing how high the physiological stress response is in that moment. Your cortisol spikes, you feel a flight response, but social norms are holding you in place like a tractor beam.
But why is it so hard? I mean, logically, why can't we just say, okay, this was nice, I'm done now, and just walk away?
Because we're tribal animals, deep down. For hundreds of thousands of years, social rejection or violating the social contract literally meant death.
If you got kicked out of the tribe, you were done for.
You're done. So we are hardwired with this deep, primal fear of offending the tribe. Walking away while someone is mid-sentence signals, "You are not important to me." Our ancient lizard brain is terrified that if we do that, we'll be cast out to be eaten by saber-toothed tigers.
So we stay, nodding and smiling while screaming on the inside.
Dying a slow social death.
The case study breaks down the different tactics we use to escape these traps. And there's the amateur move, which I am definitely 100% guilty of, the fake restroom break.
Ugh, the classic. A time-honored tradition.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me, I just need to, and then you just vanish into the crowd. You never go back.
It works, but it feels dirty. You leave with this little residue of guilt because you lied.
Exactly. It's a tiny breach of your own integrity. The pro move, as described in our materials, is much more nuanced. It's about leveraging the natural rhythm of human speech.
Okay, explain this. How do we execute the pro move?
So conversations, real ones, they operate in waves. There's a buildup of energy, then a crest where you're both engaged, and then a natural lull.
A pause.
Yes. The mistake amateurs make is trying to leave during the energy. That feels like an interruption, a rejection. The pro move is to wait patiently for the lull. That split second of silence when a topic naturally concludes.
And you have to seize that moment.
You latch onto that silence. You don't just bolt. First, you acknowledge the interaction. Well, it was so great catching up with you. And then you pivot to the exit. I'm going to go grab another drink, or I see someone I need to say hi to.
It sounds so simple when you lay it out, but it requires a lot of patience. You have to wait for the beat.
It's exactly like playing double Dutch jump rope. You have to stand there and watch the rope swing, watch the rhythm, and then jump in at the exact right moment. If you time it right, the other person feels validated, not rejected. You've closed the loop gracefully.
That is social comfort.
Managing the friction so both parties leave with their dignity intact.
Speaking of friction, let's move to the environment where friction is basically the default setting. Travel.
Yes. The definition of travel in this study is just fantastic. It's managing discomfort in unfamiliar environments.
That's it. That's all it is. We romanticize travel as this glamorous thing, but biologically, it's a massive stress test.
You're stripping away every single one of your routines. Your bed, your food sources, your sleep cycle, your familiar territory, it's all gone.
And usually you're doing all of this while severely sleep deprived and surrounded by thousands of strangers.
It's a recipe for a meltdown.
The case study presents a sort of travel survival kit, but it's less about packing cubes and more about psychological armor. The first and maybe most important piece of armor.
Sensory regulation.
Specifically, noise-canceling headphones.
I will go on record and say that noise-canceling headphones are the single most important mental health tool for modern travel, period. And it's not just because they play music or podcasts.
It's about what they subtract.
Exactly. It's about subtraction.
Yeah.
Think about an airport terminal. It is an acoustic nightmare.
Yes.
You have the rolling suitcases, the constant gate announcements, crying babies, hundreds of different conversations all overlapping, the hum of the HVAC systems. That is what psychologists call inconsistent auditory input.
And our brains don't like that.
Our brains hate it. We are evolutionarily wired to scan inconsistent noise for threats. What was that? Bang! Is that baby in distress? Is that an alarm? Your brain is constantly subconsciously processing and analyzing every sound.
So even if you're just sitting there staring at your phone, your brain is running a marathon in the background.
It is. You are leaking cognitive energy without even realizing it. When you put on noise-canceling headphones, you are artificially creating a safe, predictable auditory environment. You cut all those inputs.
You're building a wall.
A wall of silence. Your brain stops scanning for threats. Your cortisol levels physically drop. You are reclaiming agency over your own environment.
Agency. That seems to be the theme here, which leads directly to the second strategy. Power security.
The humble universal travel adapter.
It seems so trivial, right? A little piece of plastic. But the psychological weight of a dying phone in a foreign country it's massive.
It's a unique and very modern form of panic.
I've felt this panic. You land in a city where you don't speak a word of the language. Your boarding pass for your next flight is on your phone. The address of your hotel is on your phone. Your map is on your phone.
Your entire identity is on that device.
If that battery dies, you effectively cease to exist as a competent, functioning entity. You are lost.
It triggers a primal sense of helplessness. You go from being a master of your destiny to being a lost child in about 10 minutes.
So carrying a universal adapter isn't about being able to check Instagram.
No, it's about maintaining your lifeline to safety, to navigation, to communication. It is preemptive comfort. You are spending a few dollars to buy yourself an enormous amount of peace of mind.
No, we have to talk about the physical body in travel. And this brings us to a story from the research that I found. I mean, honestly, it was painful to even read. The parable of vanity versus podiatry.
Sighs, a tale as old as time. A true tragedy.
So we have a traveler, let's just call him the victim, who is on a walking tour of Europe.
And we all know the terrain of old European cities.
Yeah.
It's not smooth asphalt, it's cobblestones, it's uneven medieval pavement. It is relentless.
It is actively hostile to the human foot.
Extremely.
And yet, our traveler decides this is the moment to prioritize fashion. He packs a pair of boots that the study describes as aesthetically pleasing, but ergonomically disastrous.
The worst combination.
We're talking a narrow toe box, zero arch support, stiff, unforgiving leather.
He fell into the classic trap of image projection. We often travel not to see places, but to be seen in places. We have this mental image of ourselves as the cool, chic traveler in the photo.
He prioritized the photo over the actual experience.
And the result was, what? Carnage.
Absolute carnage, blisters upon blisters. The description in the study says every single step was pure agony.
And that's the key. He's standing in the Louvre, arguably one of the most beautiful and culturally significant places on the entire planet, and he can't look at the art. He can't appreciate it.
Why not?
Because his pain receptors are screaming so loud they're drowning everything else out. This is a perfect example of Maslow's hierarchy of needs in action.
Yeah.
If your basic physiological needs, in this case, pain relief, aren't met, you cannot access the higher needs like aesthetic appreciation or self-actualization.
You literally cannot enjoy the Mona Lisa if your feet are bleeding.
You can't. Your brain has more important things to deal with, like keeping you alive and getting you away from the source of the pain.
He eventually caved, right?
Oh, yeah. He had to. He went into a cheap shoe store and bought a pair of ugly, generic, but well-cushioned trainers.
And the relief must have been incredible.
The study says the instant relief he felt was better than any art he saw on the entire trip. The lesson is absolute. Fashion must capitulate to function. When you are traveling, your body is your vehicle. If you don't maintain the vehicle, the journey ends.
Never prioritize vanity over podiatry.
Never.
I want to pivot back to the social aspect of travel, specifically the language barrier. This is another huge source of discomfort. You walk into a bakery in Paris or a noodle shop in Tokyo and you just freeze.
It's the incompetence fear again. We hate feeling helpless and stupid.
You don't want to be that tourist.
Right. The obnoxious one who just speaks English louder and slower as if that will magically make it understandable.
But the research suggests a really simple strategy. They call it the social lubricant of language. And it's not about becoming fluent overnight. It's about learning 3 words.
Hello, please, and thank you.
That's it.
That's it. And it's all about the psychology of effort. When you, an English speaker, walk up to a local in their country and just start speaking English, you are implicitly saying, I expect you to accommodate me. My comfort is more important than your culture.
And that creates immediate friction.
It does. It triggers an us versus them dynamic right off the bat.
But if you just stumble through a bonjour or an argado,
You completely flip the script. You are signaling vulnerability. You're saying, I know I'm in your world, and I'm willing to look a little bit foolish to show you that I respect it.
that vulnerability is disarming.
Totally. And even if you butcher the pronunciation,
Yeah.
in fact, the study suggests, especially if you butcher it, it makes you less threatening. It's endearing.
It changes you from an arrogant tourist to a trying guest.
Exactly. And that small shift lubricates the entire social interaction. The local person relaxes, which makes you relax, and suddenly the discomfort of the language barrier just melts away.
Let's go back to the senses for a minute. We talked about headphones and subtracting noise, but I want to dive into why certain specific sounds drive us absolutely insane. The research brings up the term misophonia.
Yes, misophonia. It literally translates to hatred of sound, but I think even that is too mild.
It's more than hatred.
It's a neurological condition where specific auditory triggers bypass the logic centers of your brain and go straight to your amygdala, the fear and rage center.
The classic examples are like nails on a chalkboard or high-pitched screeching subway brakes.
Right. Those are pretty common.
But the one that seems to affect the most people, and I am absolutely including myself in this, is mastication.
Chewing, mouth sounds.
Slurping, loud crunching, any of the wet sounds of eating.
It evokes this irrational rage in so many people.
But why? Why does hearing someone eat popcorn in a movie theater make me want to punch a wall? It seems so completely irrational.
It's likely an evolutionary crossed wire. Think about it from a survival perspective. In the wild, thousands of years ago, what did the sound of gnawing or crunching or slurping usually mean?
A predator was nearby.
Exactly. It meant a predator was nearby eating something. And that something could very well have been one of your tribe members. Or it could be coming for you next.
So it's a danger signal.
It's a primal danger signal. It triggers a fight or flight response. Your brain doesn't hear someone enjoying their chips. It hears biological threat. It spikes your adrenaline.
So when I get angry at my partner for chewing loudly, I'm basically reacting like a gazelle hearing a lion in the bushes.
Essentially, yes. On a deep neurological level, you aren't just annoyed. Your nervous system is telling you that you are threatened. And that's why you can't just ignore it. Your brain has flagged it as a 5-alarm fire.
On the flip side of that, we have positive triggers. Auditory comfort, things like white noise or rain on a tin roof.
The ambient hum of a coffee shop is a big one.
Yes. Why are these sounds so comforting?
It comes back to that bouncer in your brain. A sound like rain or white noise is what's known as a broadband sound. It covers a very wide range of frequencies, but at a consistent, predictable volume.
So there are no surprises.
No surprises. It effectively masks the spikes, the car honk outside, the creaking floorboard in the apartment above you. It creates a predictable auditory landscape. And when the environment is predictable, the brain can finally stand down. It stops scanning for threats.
That's why people sleep better with a fan on.
It's an auditory security blanket. It tells your brain nothing to see here, you can relax.
Speaking of sleep, this is really the final boss of comfort, isn't it? Getting a good night's rest.
For many people, yes.
The research highlights a behavior that I think is the defining neurosis of our generation. Revenge, bedtime procrastination.
This is a fascinating and very modern pathology.
I caught myself doing this just last night. I was exhausted, my eyes were burning, it was past midnight, but I stayed up until 1 a.m. scrolling through videos of people restoring rusty old knives.
That's a classic.
But why? Why do we actively sabotage our own sleep like this?
The key word in the phrase is revenge. Who are you taking revenge on?
My day, I guess.
You are taking revenge on your day. If your day felt like it didn't belong to you, if you spent it all answering other people's emails, sitting in meetings you didn't call, doing chores for others, you finish the day with a deficit of economy. You feel like a cog in someone else's machine.
So staying up late is a rebellion.
It is a desperate, often subconscious bid to reclaim agency. You are saying, this time is mine. I am the one who decides what I do. Even if what you're doing is completely mindless scrolling, the fact that you chose to do it feels like freedom.
You're prioritizing psychological comfort, a feeling of autonomy over physiological comfort, which would be sleep.
Precisely. But it's a trap. It's a terrible bargain.
Because the next day you're tired and unfocused, so you have even less self-control, so the day feels even more out of your control.
Which makes you want to take even more revenge the next night. It's a vicious downward spiral. You are borrowing energy from tomorrow to pay for the illusion of freedom you felt you were owed today.
So what's the fix? The case study suggests swapping the phone for a physical book before bed.
That definitely helps. For one, the blue light from a phone screen is a direct stimulant. It screams, wake up to your brain, and suppresses melatonin. A book is passive. But more importantly, the real fix is finding pockets of agency during the day.
So you don't feel so starved for it at night.
Exactly. Take a 10-minute walk when you want to. Decide to work on a project you enjoy for an hour. If you feel in control of your life at 2 p.m., you won't feel the desperate need to rebel at 2 a.m.
There's another sleep-related issue they mentioned, which I found really interesting, the paradox of relaxation.
Oh, this one is so counterintuitive.
This is when you finally have time to relax. The kids are in bed, the work is done, you sit on the couch, you put on the movie you've been wanting to see, and you feel awful. You feel agitated, you feel like your skin is crawling.
It's a total mismatch between your mind and your body. Your mind is saying, okay, it's time to chill. but your body is still swimming in cortisol and adrenaline from the stress of the workday. You have all this stress energy just trapped in your system with nowhere to go.
You can't just slam on the brakes and turn the ignition off when the car's still going 60 miles an hour.
That's a perfect analogy. Sitting still when you are chemically primed for action feels like being in a straitjacket. It's actually physically uncomfortable.
So what's the solution? The research calls it active recovery.
If you are buzzing with that restless energy, don't sit down, don't force stillness, do something that has a low cognitive load but a high physical engagement.
Like what?
Go for a brisk walk around the block. Organize a messy junk drawer. Fold a basket of laundry.
Organizing a junk drawer is surprisingly therapeutic. I can attest to that.
It is, because it provides a sense of order and control. But more importantly, on a physiological level, you are discharging that restless energy. You are completing the stress cycle that got triggered earlier in the day. Once that energy is burned off, then you can sit down on the couch and actually truly relax. You have to move through the agitation to get to the calm.
Let's zoom out from our bodies to our physical environments, our homes. We talked about internal architecture, but the external architecture matters a lot too, and lighting seems to be the big one here.
Light is the primary zeitgeber, the time giver for the human body. It's the most powerful signal we have for regulating our circadian rhythm.
We're biological creatures.
Fundamentally, we are programmed by millions of years of evolution to be alert and active under blue-white light like the sun at high noon, and to be sleepy and relaxed under warm amber light like a fire or a sunset.
And yet so many of our offices and even our homes are lit with these harsh, cool white overhead LEDs.
It is anathema to relaxation. That kind of overhead, cool lighting triggers vigilance in the brain. It feels like an interrogation room or a hospital operating theater.
Not exactly cozy.
Not at all. If you want to create a sanctuary, a space of comfort, you need pools of light, lamps, warm-toned bulbs, positioned lower down in the room. You are essentially simulating the campfire. It sends a powerful primal signal to your brain. The day is done. The hunt is over. You are safe. Rest.
Now, here is where the case study gets into a bit of a debate. Clutter versus minimalism.
Ah, yes, the great visual noise debate.
We have two very different personality types here. On one side, we have the minimalist. For this person, a messy room equals a messy mind.
This is rooted in what's called cognitive load theory. Every single object in your field of vision grabs a tiny piece of your attention. A pile of mail on the table says, read me. A dirty cup by the sink says, wash me. A stray sock on the floor says, pick me up.
It's a to-do list you can't escape.
Exactly. And if you are sensitive to this, a cluttered room is screaming at you constantly with 1,000 tiny demands. You can't relax because your brain is trying to process 1,000 micro tasks all at once.
But then there's the other side, the person who loves cozy. For them, a stark, empty, minimalist room feels sterile. It feels cold and unwelcoming.
They want the books stacked up, the knickknacks from their travels, the blankets and pillows everywhere.
So what's the psychology there?
For these people, it's about nesting. The objects aren't tasks, they are emotional anchors. A souvenir from a trip reminds them of a happy memory. A stack of books represents their interests and passions. The objects provide a kind of emotional insulation. It's not clutter, it's texture, it's a story.
So comfort, in this case, is totally subjective. You have to know your own brain. Do you need visual silence or do you need a choir of happy memories?
You have to know your own nervous system.
Yeah.
But there's one thing that the research shows works for almost everyone, regardless of where they fall on that spectrum. Biophilic design.
Bringing nature inside.
Like
plants.
Plants. There is incredibly robust data on this. Just looking at fractals, the complex repeating patterns you find in leaves and ferns has been shown to lower blood pressure and reduce stress.
Why is that?
Because we evolved in nature. Concrete boxes and perfectly straight lines are, evolutionarily speaking, very new and very alien to us. Bringing a plant into a room is like bringing a piece of our ancestral home into a stranger's house. It instantly signals safety to our primitive brain.
We've talked a lot about controlling your environment, but sometimes you can't. And sometimes thinking you can leads to absolute disaster. And on that note, we have to talk about the camping story.
This is the cautionary tale of the episode.
It really is. So in the case study, one of the subjects decides to go camping in the desert, and he falls deeply into the trap of the wanderer mindset.
He's all about spontaneity.
He's thinking, I don't want to overplan this. I'll just go with the flow, be one with nature.
He confused spontaneity with a total lack of preparation.
He brings a very thin summer sleeping bag, no tent insulation. He forgets one crucial scientific fact about deserts.
They are brutally hot during the day, but they become freezers at night. The temperature can drop 40 or 50 degrees the moment the sun goes down.
And the description of his night is honestly terrifying. He wasn't just chilly, he was convulsing. The study says he was shivering uncontrollably for hours.
That is the early stage of hypothermia. His body is literally vibrating, burning massive amounts of calories to generate enough heat to keep his vital organs from shutting down.
And what about his mental state? Did he appreciate the spontaneity?
He talks about how the fun of spontaneity vanished instantly. It was replaced by a single all-consuming thought. I am going to die out here.
This is the hard limit of psychology, isn't it? You can mind over matter a cramped airplane seat.
You absolutely cannot mind over matter hypothermia. We are biological organisms first and foremost. We need thermal regulation to survive. When your core body temperature drops that low, your brain drops all higher functions. You don't care about the beautiful stars. You don't care about the profound silence of the desert.
You are reduced to a reptilian need for warmth.
Just survival. And the lesson here is so stark. Spontaneity is a luxury that is built on a foundation of safety. You can only afford to be spontaneous if you have the basics covered.
You can wander off the path if you know you have a warm sleeping bag and a first aid kit to come back to.
Exactly. Build your foundation of safety first, then you can be spontaneous. Don't ever gamble with your basic biology.
As we're coming toward the end here, I want to touch on the final piece of the comfort puzzle. Nostalgia.
Ah, yes.
We usually think of comfort as something happening in the present moment, but so often what we seek is a feeling from the past.
Nostalgia is retrospective comfort. It's a psychological tool for accessing a safe state of safety. And it is almost always connected to the senses.
Specifically smell, the Proustian moment.
Right. Smell is unique among our senses. It's the only one that bypasses the thalamus, which is the brain's main processing relay center, and goes directly to the olfactory bulb.
Which is wired right into
the hippocampus, which is your memory center, and the amygdala, your emotion center. That's why a smell can hit you so hard and so fast with no warning. It's a direct, unfiltered line to your deepest memories and emotions.
In the case study for one of the subjects, John, the trigger smell is chocolate chip cookie dough.
And it's not just about the sugar. It's the time travel. That smell instantly transports him back to his grandmother's kitchen when he was 7 years old. It triggers the entire neurochemistry of being a child, of being cared for, of having no bills, no deadlines, no existential threats.
It creates a little bubble of safety in the present.
A perfect temporary sanctuary. For the other subject, Emma, it's the smell of Earl Grey tea.
That one's a ritual.
It's a ritual. It grounds her. In a chaotic day, that smell is a sensory anchor. It's a micro moment of mindfulness that says, for these 3 minutes, everything is okay.
It's so interesting to track how our definition of comfort evolves as we age. When you're 20, comfort is almost irrelevant. You'll happily sleep on a hostel floor.
You'll wear the painful but fashionable shoes to the club. You'll eat questionable street food. You actively chase the discomfort.
Why?
Because in your 20s, your primary psychological drive is novelty. You are acquiring experiences. You are testing your limits, figuring out who you are. Discomfort is a badge of honor. It means you're living.
But then, something shifts. I can feel it in my own life.
The tolerance threshold lowers dramatically. As we get older, the primary drive often shifts from novelty to stability. We come to realize that we have a finite amount of energy.
And we don't want to waste it?
We aren't willing to spend 3 days recovering from a bad night's sleep just to say we did something spontaneous. We start to value this architecture of ease we've been talking about because it allows us to be present for the good parts of life. If you aren't constantly fighting your environment, you can actually enjoy your life.
So let's try to wrap this all up. We started by asking a simple question. What is comfort? And I think we've proven it's definitely not just a soft pillow.
No. Comfort is regulation. At its core, it is the successful management of friction, both internal and external.
It's knowing when to distract your brain with a good book.
When to gracefully exit a conversation.
When to put on the noise-canceling headphones, and when to just accept that you need to go to sleep.
It's about being understood, but first and foremost, by yourself. Knowing that you're the kind of person who needs that warm light or the white noise or the active recovery walk instead of the movie.
And then giving yourself permission to take those things, to prioritize the well-being of your own nervous system.
That's not selfish. It's functional.
I want to leave our listeners with a challenge for this week based on that. Take a look at your life. Where are you enduring useless friction?
What's a small, persistent source of discomfort you've just been putting up with?
Are you wearing shoes that hurt just a little bit? Are you working all day under harsh fluorescent lighting? Are you staying up late for revenge, knowing you'll pay for it tomorrow?
Pick one. Just one tiny piece of friction and actively remove it. Buy the warmer light bulb. Leave the party 30 minutes earlier than you think you should. Go for that 5-minute walk before you sit on the couch.
And just see what happens to your energy, to your battery level, because comfort isn't lazy. It's the foundation for a functioning, engaged human being. Thanks for diving deep with us.
Stay comfortable, everyone. Welcome back to the deep dive. I want to start today by asking you to do something that might feel a little bit dangerous.
Oh, okay. I'm intrigued.
I want you to close your eyes.
Right?
That is, unless you're driving, obviously, please keep them on the road. But if you're in a safe spot, just close them for a second. I want you to conjure up a specific sensation.
Okay, I'm doing it. Eyes closed.
I want you to visualize that moment when the air suddenly, leaves the room. Your skin starts to prickle. Your heart rate ticks up just a little bit. You become hyper aware of your own hands.
Oh, yeah. The hands. What do I do with my hands?
Exactly. You don't know where to put them. Are they in your pockets? Are they crossed? Do you clasp them? It's that visceral, stomach-churning sensation of awkwardness.
Oh, I know it well. It's a very, very specific frequency of misery.
It is, isn't it? Exactly. Maybe it was a joke you told that didn't just land. It crashed and burned.
Total silence.
Just dead air. Or maybe it's an elevator ride with a coworker you've met once, and neither of you speaks for 12 floors, and you're just staring at the numbers changing.
The longest 12 floors of your life.
We have all been there. It is a universal human experience. And, usually our instinct is to run away from that feeling as fast as humanly possible.
It is the universal signal to abort mission. I mean, evolutionarily speaking, we are wired to belong to the tribe.
Right.
Awkwardness is essentially a warning light on the dashboard saying, you are failing at belonging right now, so we panic.
We panic. But today, we are doing the opposite.
We're running towards the fire.
We're running toward it. We're diving into a stack of materials, some research essays, and specifically a really fascinating discussion from the Advanced Learner Studio that analyze what we're calling the paradox of growth and social friction.
It's a heavy title, but the concept is actually very practical.
It is. And the core argument here is going to challenge a lot of our listeners, I think. We spend our lives optimizing for comfort, right?
Excellent.
Think about it. We buy the ergonomic chair. We get the mattress with the perfect firmness.
Yeah.
We adjust the thermostat to exactly 72 degrees.
We have apps that filter out music we don't like.
Yes. We curate our lives for maximum smoothness. But the sources we're looking at today argue that while physical comfort is great, social comfort, that sort of psychological comfort, might actually be the enemy.
And that is the provocative hook here, isn't it? Because physical comfort is, well, it's easy to define.
Sure.
If your shoe is tight, you take it off. If the chair is hard, you get a cushion. Problem solved. But social comfort,
That's a whole different beast.
that is psychological. It is performative. It involves other people's perceptions, our own insecurities, and all these unspoken cultural rules. It is infinitely more complex.
So our mission today is to figure out the mechanics of this. Why are we so terrified of silence? Why do we trap ourselves in conversations that are boring us to tears? And the big so what? Is that discomfort actually a bad thing? Because the sources seem to suggest that if you aren't feeling a little bit of friction, you probably aren't growing.
Right, and that's the key. The insight here isn't just how to be less awkward at parties. I mean, that's surface level.
That's the easy part.
The deep dive here is understanding that discomfort is the engine of intellectual and personal progress. If you are perfectly comfortable socially all the time, you might just be stagnating.
We've got some incredible and honestly kind of painful examples to get through. We're going to talk about grocery store torture.
I like that name for it.
The dreaded cat monologue, which I think we've all endured, and something called the Michelin star grilled cheese, which is my personal favorite example of rebellion.
The grilled cheese is a standout moment, for sure. It really highlights the absurdity of our social rules.
It really does. So let's get into it. Let's start with something low stakes, but incredibly common. Section 1 of our breakdown, the phobia of silence.
This is the baseline. This is where it all starts.
So the source material paints a picture that I think every single person listening has experienced. You are standing in a queue at the grocery store.
Yeah.
It's Tuesday. You're tired. You just want your eggs, your milk, maybe a frozen pizza, nothing special.
The classic queue scenario. You are stuck. You are a captive audience.
You're stuck. You've got your cart. The person in front of you has their cart. The belt is moving slowly. Beep, beep. And suddenly you feel it. It's like a pressure building in the atmosphere. The person next to you starts shifting their weight. They look at the tabloids. They look at the ceiling. They look at you. And they feel this absolute burning compulsion to speak.
They have to.
They must say something.
It is remarkable when you break it down, isn't it? Because functionally, this environment is neutral.
Right. Nothing is happening.
You are just two biological units waiting to exchange currency for goods. There is no biological need to speak. You don't need to coordinate a hunt. You don't need to defend the tribe from a saber-toothed tiger.
Right.
Yet the source describes it as a cultural phobia of silence.
A phobia. That seems strong. A phobia is an irrational fear. Are we irrationally afraid of quiet?
You know, I don't think phobia is too strong at all. Think about the physiological response.
Okay.
When that silence stretches on for more than, say, 10 seconds, people get anxious, their cortisol spikes. We don't just see silence as the absence of noise.
We see it as...
We interpret it as something active. In our culture, and this is specifically in Western culture, though it does vary globally, silence is often interpreted as hostility.
Hostility, really. Not just quiet.
Or boredom, or judgment. If I'm standing next to you and I don't acknowledge you, the narrative in your head isn't, oh, he's probably thinking about his day, or he's meditating on the price of avocados.
No, you're right. The narrative is, what's wrong with this guy?
The narrative is, he thinks he's better than me, or I'm being ignored, or, is he mad at me? It feels like a rejection.
That's so true. If I'm standing there and I don't say anything, I feel like the other person thinks I'm rude or arrogant or something. So what happens? The source says we resort to forced small talk. We panic button the conversation.
The lovely weather, isn't it?
Long line today, huh? Looks like rain. It's absolute banality.
Total banality.
It's sentences that contain almost zero information. We're just making sounds to fill the space.
And here is the paradox that the source highlights, and it is brilliant. We engage in this small talk to reduce the discomfort of the silence.
Oh, right, that's the goal.
We think, if I speak, the tension goes away. That is the logic. But let me ask you, does it really go away?
No, it almost never does. It gets worse.
Why? Why not?
Because now I'm locked in. I've opened the door.
You're committing.
I have to pretend to care about the rain. Now I have to listen to their opinion on the price of eggs. I've turned a neutral, quiet moment into an obligation.
Exactly. The source argues that filling the void with banality often creates more discomfort than the silence itself.
It really does.
Because now it feels performative. That's the key word used in the text. You are now performing the role of friendly person in line.
I'm an actor.
You are. You aren't actually connecting. You aren't sharing a depth truth. You're trading pre-written scripts. How about that local sports team?
It's exhausting. It's a micro drain on your battery for the day.
It is. Whereas, if you could just accept what the source calls companionable silence, just two people existing in the same space, acknowledging each other's humanity without needing to entertain one another, that would actually be the more comfortable option.
Companionable silence. That sounds lovely. Like sitting on a porch with a good friend and not needing to talk. But with a stranger, it's like our programming won't let us do it.
Our social conditioning screams that silence is a vacuum that must be filled.
Yeah.
Even if we fill it with garbage.
Garbage conversation.
That's harsh, but pretty accurate. We'd rather speak nonsense than sit in peace.
Because it replaces a neutral piece with an active, draining performance. And that is a perfect example of how our pursuit of social comfort, trying to be polite, actually leads to personal discomfort.
So we're sabotaging ourselves. We are sabotaging our own peace of mind to adhere to a social rule that, frankly, nobody really enjoys.
It's like a collective delusion. We all hate the small talk, but we all do it because we think the other person wants it.
Precisely. It's a feedback loop of anxiety.
Which brings us perfectly to the next level of this.
Upping the stakes.
Right. We're moving from the grocery store, which is relatively low stakes. I mean, eventually you pay and you leave to something much harder to escape. The source calls this social entrapment.
The stakes are higher here because usually you know these people, or at least you're in a setting where you can't just walk away without consequences.
You can't just pay for your eggs and bolt.
No, that would be noticed.
The example given is the party trap. We've all been there.
Yeah.
You're holding your drink, maybe a lukewarm beer, the ice is melting in your soda, and you get cornered.
The corner. the most dangerous place at any social gathering.
And the source describes being trapped listening to a monologue about someone's cat.
Whoa. Laughs. The specific detail of the cat monologue is just so relatable. It's not just, I have a cat. It's a dissertation.
It is a full TED Talk on feline behavior.
Yeah.
It's the diet. Oh, Mr. Whiskers can only eat the pâté from the specific brand in the blue can, not the green one.
Of course, not the green one.
It's the sleeping habits. It's the vet visits. It's the specific texture of the hairballs. And you are standing there, listening to this saga, nodding your head,
eyes glazing over,
feeling the physical sensation of being unable to walk away. It's like your feet are glued to the floor. Why is it so hard to just say, excuse me, I'm going to go?
Because this creates a fascinating internal conflict. The source breaks this down as a moral dilemma.
A moral dilemma.
Yes. On one side, you have the social contract. That's the imperative to be polite.
Right.
It says, you listen, you nod, you smile, you validate the speaker. This is ingrained in us from childhood. Listen to Aunt Marge. Don't be rude.
Right. And on the other side, what's fighting against that?
On the other side, you have personal comfort and, frankly, your own sanity. Lives. My will to live.
Your will to live, you want to escape, you are bored, you are tired, you have limited time on this earth, and you are spending precious seconds of it hearing about cat food.
But we are trained that politeness trumps personal comfort, almost every time. So we suffer, we stand there and we nod. Wow, really? He eats the wet food. Amazing.
We become hostages.
We're hostages to politeness.
Until we break. And how do we break? We rarely break with honesty. We don't say, this is incredibly boring and I would like to speak to someone else now.
Oh God, no. That feels like a nuclear option.
That feels like an attack. So the source points out that this is where the white lie comes in.
Ah, yes. The escape hatch.
The eject button.
Oh, the classics. The source lists a couple of go-to moves. There's the feigning a phone call, the phantom vibration in the pocket.
The old phantom buzz.
You tap your thigh, you look concerned. Oh, so sorry, I have to take this.
It's a theatrical performance. You have to sell the urgency.
Yeah.
A little frown, a concerned look in your eye. Or the sudden urgent need to find a non-existent dog. Or, my favorite, a friend you claim is looking for you. Have you seen Dave? I really need to find Dave. He has my keys.
There is no Dave.
Dave doesn't exist. There are no keys.
Exactly. And in the moment, we view this lie as the solution. We think, aha, I have solved the discomfort of the boring conversation. I am a genius. I am free.
Right, problem solved.
But have we really solved it?
And here's where it gets really interesting. Because the source argues that the white lie doesn't fix the discomfort. It just shifts it. It transforms it.
It creates a secondary layer of discomfort. Now, you aren't just bored, you are anxious.
Right?
You have created a credibility crisis. You have to maintain the fiction. You are now the keeper of the lie.
The source gives this nightmare scenario that I think everyone has either experienced or dreaded. You tell the person you have to leave. Oh, so sorry, gotta run. Big early morning tomorrow, gotta let the dog out.
You do the pity face, the whole performance.
You walk away feeling victorious. And then 5 minutes later,
You are spotted.
you are spotted by the buffet.
Caught red-handed with a shrimp cocktail.
And that feeling right there, that is a visceral kind of horror. Because now authenticity is the casualty.
That's gone.
You haven't just been boring. You've been exposed as a liar. The discomfort shifts from boredom to shame.
And fear of confrontation. Because if they make eye contact with you at the buffet, what do? Do you double down? Oh, my early morning got canceled.
Do you run?
Yeah.
Do you hide behind a plant? Do you pretend you just came back?
It's an impossible situation. And it proves the point that trying to dodge the initial friction, the tiny bit of friction of just saying, excuse me, I'm going to go grab some food, or it was really nice chatting, I'm going to circulate a bit.
Which is a totally normal, acceptable thing to say.
A completely normal thing. But trying to avoid that honest moment leads to a much more complex web of anxiety.
It's the so what of this section. The lie is emotionally more expensive than the truth.
The lie is emotionally expensive. I like that. We think it's cheap, but the interest rates are high.
Very high. And it degrades your own sense of self, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Every time you lie to avoid a small awkwardness, you are telling yourself, I am not brave enough to handle reality.
That's a powerful way to put it. You're eroding your own integrity bit by bit.
So we've done the grocery store, we've done the party. Now I want to take this to where it really hits the wallet, The workplace. Professional authenticity.
This is where the friction creates real sparks, because now your livelihood is involved, your reputation is on the line.
The source shares this anecdote that made me cringe just reading it. It's about a presentation. And the person describes wearing a suit that felt like a straitjacket.
Right. And they clarify it wasn't just that the collar was tight or the fabric was stiff. It wasn't a tailoring issue.
Well,
it was psychological.
It's the uniform of the expert, right?
Yeah.
They put on the suit because they thought this is what a smart, competent person wears. But they didn't feel like an expert inside.
Exactly. The source uses the term imposter syndrome. Now, this is a concept many of our listeners will know, but in this context, it's about dissonance. There is a gap, a chasm, really.
Huge gap.
Between the external image you are projecting, authority, competence, I know what I'm doing, and the internal state, I am a total fraud and everyone is about to find out.
That dissonance is deafening. It takes up so much processing power in your brain.
Oh, all of it.
You're not focused on your content. You're focused on maintaining the disguise. And in the story, this tension leads to a disaster, a visceral experience of failure. They try to crack a joke.
A dangerous move when you are already nervous. Humor requires timing, and timing requires relaxation. You can't be tense and funny.
And it falls completely flat. The source describes deafening silence, feeling like a deer in the headlights, wanting the floor to swallow you whole. I mean, we've all had a joke bomb, but in a professional presentation,
Oh, it's brutal.
that is nightmare fuel. The silence rings in your ears.
It is. But let's look at the analysis provided in the text. Why did it fail? Why was the suit a straitjacket? Why did the joke bomb?
The expert in the source diagnoses the error, and it's so insightful. The speaker was trying to impress the audience,
As opposed to what? What's the alternative?
as opposed to connecting with them.
Okay, let's pause on that. Impress versus connect. That sounds like a subtle semantic shift or maybe just some HR jargon. But the source argues it's actually huge. What is the practical difference?
It's a fundamental reversal of the spotlight. It's about where the energy is directed.
Okay.
When you try to impress, the spotlight is on you. Do I look smart? Is my suit right? Was my joke funny? Do they like me? Am I worthy?
It's all me, me, me.
It's all internal, and that is a high-pressure, high-anxiety state. You are performing. You are defending your ego. You are the protagonist of the movie in your head.
And you're trapped in your own head. You aren't even really looking at the audience. You're looking at your own reflection in their eyes, trying to gauge their reaction. Exactly. The actionable advice the source offers is to physically and mentally shift the spotlight outward.
How do you do that?
Before you walk on stage or into that meeting, you ask a different question. Instead of, how do I look? You ask, how can I help this audience? What value am I giving them?
So you're not the star of the show anymore. The information is the star. Or the audience is the star.
Correct. And that removes the straitjacket. If you are just a messenger bringing something helpful, you don't need to be perfect. You just need to be clear.
I see.
It mitigates the nerves by removing the focus from the self. It turns performance into service.
That is such a relief to hear. It's not about being the smartest person in the room. It's about being the most helpful person in the room.
Exactly.
If I spill coffee on my shirt, but I give you life-changing advice, you don't care about the coffee stain.
Exactly. But if you are there to impress us with your pristine shirt, the coffee stain is a catastrophe.
Right.
It changes the stakes completely.
And that requires vulnerability, which is uncomfortable. Which, again, that brings us back to our theme. Vulnerability is the friction.
And friction is where the heat comes from, where the transformation happens.
Which leads us to the pivotal question of this entire deep dive.
Yeah.
We've talked about all these horrible feelings, the awkwardness, the fear, the shame, the silence. So is discomfort the enemy? Is the goal of life to get to a place where we never feel this way again?
Where we're just perfectly comfortable blobs.
Right. Is that the end game?
The source is very, very clear on this. No, in fact, they argue that comfort is the enemy.
Whoa. Comfort is the enemy. That sounds miserable. I like my comfortable chair.
Well, physical comfort is fine, but psychological comfort, when it becomes the primary goal, is the enemy of progress. They introduce the concept of atrophy.
Like muscles. If you don't use them, you lose them.
Exactly like muscles. Think about biology. If you broke your arm and had it in a cast for 6 weeks, perfectly comfortable, protected, immobile, what happens when the cast comes off?
The arm is tiny, it's weak, you can't lift a pencil. It's basically useless for a while.
The muscle has withered, it has atrophied. The rule of nature is use it or lose it. And that applies to our social and intellectual selves too.
So if we stay in our social comfort zone, If we never have the awkward conversation, if we never give the speech, if we always use the white lie to escape,
we stagnate. Our social and intellectual muscles wither. We become brittle. We lose the ability to handle even minor frictions. A small challenge feels like a mountain.
the source uses a great gym metaphor here. No pain, no gain. It's a cliche, but it works.
Right. It's a cliche for a reason. When you go to the gym, do you know what you are actually doing on a microscopic level?
Breaking things down, I assume.
You are literally tearing muscle fibers. You are causing micro-trauma to the tissue. That is uncomfortable. It hurts. You are sweating. You are shaking.
Yeah, it's not fun in the moment.
But the repair process, when the body knits those fibers back together, stronger than before, is what builds strength. The source applies this directly to the intellect.
They mentioned learning a new language. And, oh man, does this resonate. I tried to learn Spanish a few years ago, and the physical sensation of trying to speak it, it was painful. My brain actually hurt.
It's a perfect example of intellectual discomfort. It's the mental equivalent of lifting a heavy weight for the first time.
The source describes the feeling so vividly. Foolishness, making mistakes, sounding like a toddler.
Yes.
You're a grown adult, maybe you're a CEO or a doctor, you pay taxes, you drive a car, but you're struggling to say, where's the library? Or, I have a red shirt. It's deeply humbling.
It's incredibly vulnerable. It strips away your status. You can't rely on your wit or your vocabulary. You are naked, linguistically speaking.
Totally naked.
But the reality is, without that discomfort, fluency is impossible. You cannot learn to speak if you are unwilling to sound stupid first.
You have to be willing to be the toddler.
You have to embrace the suck. You have to be okay with being bad at it for a while. That's the only path.
I love the other anecdote they share. The pottery class.
Yes, John's pottery class. A great story.
He talks about being terrible at it initially. You can just picture it, right? The clay is probably flying everywhere. It's lopsided. It looks like a gray blob. It's a mess.
He felt clumsy. His hands wouldn't do what his brain wanted them to do. It was a failure of translation between mind and body.
But he notes that the satisfaction of eventually centering the clay, of getting it right, feeling it smooth out under his hands, was so much greater because of the struggle.
Yes.
If he had sat down and done it perfectly the first time, it would have been boring. It would have meant nothing.
The discomfort adds value to the success. It validates the growth. It proves you traveled a distance from point A to point B.
Right.
So the expert in the source suggests a reframe, a mental shift. We need to view nervous energy or awkwardness not as a stop signal, not as danger, turn back, but as growing pains.
That's a powerful shift. I'm not dying, I'm growing.
Precisely. When your cheeks get hot, when your heart races, that is your body telling you that you are pushing a boundary. You are expanding your map. You are building new neural pathways. That takes energy. It's supposed to feel like something.
And there's always but does this mean we should just be miserable all the time?
No.
Just constantly throwing ourselves into awkward situations. Should I go stand in an elevator and just scream to feel the friction? Should I wear a clown suit to a funeral? Where's the line?
No. Please don't do that. The source is very careful to make this distinction in our final section. It's not about masochism. It's about strategic rebellion.
Strategic rebellion. I like the sound of that. It sounds almost punk rock.
It is a little punk rock. It means you don't just seek discomfort for the sake of it. You curate it. You choose your battles.
The goal isn't to be uncomfortable 24/7. It's to be uncomfortable when it matters, when there's growth on the other side.
Correct. And sometimes that means challenging social norms to reclaim your personal comfort.
So it's a two-way street.
It is. Sometimes the growth comes from saying no to the social pressure that's making you uncomfortable for no good reason.
This brings us to the absolute highlight of the source material for me, the grilled cheese rebellion.
The Michelin star grilled cheese, a moment of true heroism.
Okay, picture this. You're at a Michelin star restaurant. We're talking white tablecloths, 3 forks, 3 spoons. The menu is in French. The waiters are wearing tuxedos. The lighting is dim. Everyone is whispering.
A height of social performance.
And you order a grilled cheese sandwich.
Now, obviously, this is a bit of a hyperbolic example. Most Michelin places probably don't have grilled cheese on the menu, or if they do, it's $50 and has truffle oil and gold flakes.
Right, but the spirit of it.
The sentiment is real. It's about ordering the simplest thing in the fanciest place.
And the reaction. The waiter pauses.
Yeah.
Eyebrows go up at the next table. You can feel the judgment radiating off the walls. Look at that Philistine. Doesn't he know where he is?
But the lesson here is profound. Prioritizing your genuine needs over the perceived judgment of others is a form of self-care.
It's an act of defiance.
It is. If your soul needs a grilled cheese, if you need comfort food, if you are exhausted and just want something simple, and you order the foie gras because you think that's what smart people eat, you are betraying yourself.
You're wearing the straitjacket again. The fancy, expensive straitjacket.
Exactly. You are performing. You are letting the room dictate your reality. You are handing over your agency to a waiter in a tuxedo.
But we have to balance this, right? The source warns against just being a jerk.
Right.
It's not a license to be obnoxious.
Yes. The host in the source cautions against being rude or antisocial. You don't order the grilled cheese just to make the waiter's life hard.
Right.
You don't ignore social norms just to be edgy. You don't chew with your mouth open just to prove you're a rebel.
Right. It's not about disruption for disruption's sake. It's about authenticity.
Exactly. And the expert delivers a core quote here that I think belongs on a billboard. I want everyone listening to hear this. We shouldn't set ourselves on fire to keep others warm.
Oof. That hits hard. Can you say that again?
We shouldn't set ourselves on fire to keep others warm.
Wow. That's a powerful metaphor for that social friction. Enduring the boring conversation, wearing the uncomfortable suit, laughing at the joke you don't find funny.
That is you setting yourself on fire. You are burning up your own energy, your own authenticity, your own patience.
All your resources.
All of them. Just to keep the social atmosphere warm and comfortable for everyone else.
That puts the grocery store scenario in a whole new light. Making small talk when you don't want to is a tiny little fire you're lighting on your own skin.
It is. A small one, but it is. And over a lifetime, those burns add up. You end up charred. You end up resentful.
That makes so much sense.
How many people do we know who are just exhausted by social interaction? It's often because they are constantly, in small ways, setting themselves on fire.
So we've been on quite a journey today. We've gone from itchy wool sweaters, metaphorically speaking,
Yes.
to cat monologues, to the absolute dread of public speaking, to the rebellion of the grilled cheese.
We have covered the full spectrum of social friction, from the mundane to the Michelin-starred.
If we have to boil this all down for the listener, they're walking away from this deep dive, they're going into their day, they might be heading to the grocery store right now. What is the final rubric? What's the takeaway?
The source leaves us with one essential tool, a diagnostic tool.
Okay.
When you feel that tightening in your chest, that heat in your cheeks, when you feel discomfort, do not ignore it. Do not just suppress it with a phone scrolling session. Ask one question.
What's the question?
Is this discomfort telling me I'm in danger, or is it telling me I'm growing?
Danger or growth? That's the fork in the road.
That is the filter. If you are in danger, if you are truly being threatened, or if someone is actually hostile run, trust your gut. Evolution gave you fear for a reason. Get out of there. But usually in modern social situations, we aren't in danger. We are just stretching. We are growing. And if the answer is I'm growing, then you lean into it.
You don't run.
You don't run. You stay in the silence. You give the speech. You speak the bad Spanish. You center the lopsided clay.
But the source also reminds us to take a break, right? We can't be growing 24 hours a day. That would be exhausting.
Yes, absolutely. This isn't about constant torture. They end by reminding us to appreciate the calm, savor the true comfort, the cup of tea, the comfortable chair, the companionable silence where you don't have to speak because you're with someone you trust.
Because you've earned it. The comfort is sweeter after the friction.
Exactly. You can only really enjoy the comfort if you've been out in the friction. It's the contrast that makes it sweet.
That makes sense.
If you are always comfortable, comfort means nothing. It's just a baseline. But if you've just given a scary presentation, that quiet car ride home is bliss.
That is a beautiful place to leave it. To everyone listening, next time you're in the grocery line, maybe just let it be silent. See what happens.
Take a breath.
You might not die. You might just grow.
Indeed. Or at the very least, you'll save your energy for something that really matters.
Thanks for diving deep with us today.
My pleasure. Until next time.
See you later.
Hello, and welcome back to The Deep Dive. It is honestly great to have you with us today.
It is.
We are wading into some really interesting waters for this session. We're taking a concept that is, it's probably one of the most familiar, most sought-after feelings in the human experience.
Oh, absolutely.
And we are going to completely dismantle it and rebuild it from the ground up.
It's one of those topics that sounds incredibly simple on the surface, isn't it? But the deeper you go into the source material, the more complex and, frankly, the more essential it becomes.
We are talking about comfort.
Comfort. Just saying the word makes you want to exhale.
It really does. And I want to start right there. I want to ask you, and I want to ask everyone listening right now, when you hear that word comfort, where does your brain go? What is the immediate image that pops into your head?
Oh, that's easy. If I'm being totally honest, it's probably a rainy Sunday.
Classic.
Yeah.
The absolute classic.
It is a cliche for a reason. It's a rainy Sunday. I'm wearing the most hideous but softest sweatpants I own. There's a cup of tea, maybe a book or a show I've seen 100 times.
Okay, I'm with you so far.
But the most important part of that image, for me at least, is what isn't there. There are no other people. The door is locked.
Yeah.
The phone is like in the other room, preferably on silent.
Exactly. That is the archetype. It's the fortress of solitude model of comfort.
100%.
We tend to view comfort as a solo sport. It's me against the world, and comfort is what happens when I successfully subtract the world and all its people from the equation.
That is the prevailing cultural narrative. Absolutely. We define comfort as the absence of stressors. And let's be real, other people are often the primary stressors in our lives.
Right. So the logic follows.
So logically, we think, remove the people, achieve comfort, simple math.
You aren't wrong. But, and here is the massive but that drives our entire discussion today, we have been analyzing this fascinating source material from the Advanced Learner Studio. Specifically, we're looking at a discussion between speakers identified as Emma and John titled The Collective Architecture of Comfort and Compassion. And they drop a premise that completely flips that fortress of solitude idea on its head.
They argue that our isolationist definition of comfort is not only incomplete, but it might also be biologically and psychologically wrong.
I call it a collective architecture.
That phrase does a lot of heavy lifting. Collective architecture.
It really does.
It implies that comfort isn't just something you find lying around. It is a structure. And it's a structure you have to build with other people, not away from them.
And that is the mission for this deep dive. We want to take you from viewing comfort as this passive, private thing, I'm cozy in my blanket, to seeing it as an active social strategy.
A very active one.
A strategy for sustainability, for learning, and for, frankly, just navigating a chaotic world.
It is about shifting the lens from the individual to the interpersonal, from me to we.
So let's get into the mechanics of this. The source material starts by tackling what we might call the physics of the vibe.
I love that framing, because when you look at the research and the discussion in the source, it really is a physics issue, isn't it? It's about energy transfer.
It is. The text begins by rejecting that individual perspective we just described. Emma and John discuss how we usually frame discomfort. We say, my shoes hurt, or I am anxious, or I am cold.
It's possessive.
Totally possessive. It's mine. It's happening inside my skin, so it must be my problem and my problem alone.
Which is a logical assumption to make. I mean, the sensory data is internal. You feel the blister on your heel. I don't feel it. You feel that knot in your stomach. I don't feel it.
Right.
So we assume the experience begins and ends at the boundary of our own bodies. We think of ourselves as sealed units, like little emotional submarines.
But the source argues that this is a biological fallacy. Because humans are not sealed units.
We are not airtight.
Okay.
We are what the source calls permeable.
Permeable. That is such a vivid word. It suggests that things can pass right through us. Experiences, feelings.
Exactly. We are social primates. Evolution designed us to be constantly attuned to the group. If you go back to our early history on the savannah, being isolated meant death.
You were lunch.
You were absolutely lunch. Being in tune with the tribe meant survival. So the term the source highlights here, and this is a crucial psychological concept, is emotional contagion.
Emotional contagion. It sounds like we're discussing a virus.
In a behavioral sense, we are. Emotions function very, very similarly to a contagion. We're constantly broadcasting our internal state to everyone around us, and simultaneously, we're constantly absorbing the states of others.
Like radio towers.
We're like radio towers that are also receivers. We're transceivers.
So if I walk into a meeting and I'm stressed or I'm physically uncomfortable, let's say I have a migraine coming on, I'm not just keeping that to myself, I'm transmitting it.
You are polluting the signal, yes. The source uses the example of a group dynamic. If one person is visibly uncomfortable, maybe they're shivering because the AC is cranked too high.
Oh, I've seen this 1,000 times.
Or they're clearly hungry and irritable,
Yeah.
hangry. Or they just feel incredibly awkward and out of place. That discomfort doesn't stay contained within that one person. It permeates the group. It leaks out.
I think everyone listening has felt this. You're at a dinner party, the food is great, the lighting is perfect, but one person at the table is just off. Maybe they are sitting there with their arms crossed because they're cold, or they're shifting around because the chair is awful, or they're just silently fuming about something that happened at work.
And suddenly you can't enjoy your meal.
I can't. I'm sitting there perfectly warm and well-fed, but I'm tense. I'm on edge. I start wondering, is it me? Did I say something?
That is the mechanism at work. The source calls it bringing down the vibe, which is a casual way to describe a deep evolutionary trait. Your brain has these things called mirror neurons. When you see distress in someone else, your brain doesn't just register it intellectually. It simulates that distress. A part of your brain literally feels a shadow of what they're feeling.
So it's a survival mechanism, right?
Precisely. It's a threat detection system. If a member of the tribe is distressed, there might be a threat. A predator, a storm, a lack of resources. So your body responds by becoming alert. You catch the discomfort. It's a warning signal.
That is wild to think about. My comfort is literally held hostage by your comfort.
To an extent, yes. Our nervous systems are networked. And this has a profound implication that the source touches on. It completely shifts the responsibility.
How so?
Well, if we accept emotional contagion as a fact, then managing your own state isn't just self-indulgence. It's not just about you. It's a social responsibility.
You are the thermostat for the room.
That's a great analogy. You aren't just a thermometer reading the temperature. You are the thermostat setting it. If you are miserable because you didn't eat lunch, you are making the meeting miserable for everyone.
So powering through your hunger or your cold isn't noble. It's not a sign of strength. It's actually kind of inconsiderate.
It disrupts the collective architecture, yes. You become the weak point in the structure. Your discomfort becomes attacks on everyone else's attention and energy.
Wow, that really reframes things. Which leads us directly into the second major pillar of this discussion. If the problem is contagion, if my bad mood can ruin your day, then the solution must be, well, something proactive.
It must be the architecture of reciprocity.
The architecture of reciprocity.
And this is where they bring in a concept that I think many listeners will recognize, though perhaps they've been thinking about it wrong. They bring in Hygge.
Hygge, spelled Hygge, the Danish concept that had a massive pop culture moment a few years back.
It was everywhere. You couldn't open a magazine without seeing an article about it.
It really was. But in the US and the UK, it became a marketing buzzword. It was sold as, buy these $40 wool socks, buy this vanilla bean candle, sit by a fireplace, and you have achieved Hygge.
It was very commercial. It was an aesthetic.
Right, it was product-based, comfort as a commodity you could purchase.
But the source material, drawing on the actual cultural roots of the concept, corrects this. Emma and John emphasize that Hygge isn't about the accessories. You can have Hygge without the candle. The candle is a symptom, not the cause.
So what is it, really? What's the core of it?
It is defined in the text as a shared sense of safety, warmth, and togetherness.
Shared being the operative word there.
Shared and safety. It's the most important part. You cannot feel Hygge if you feel threatened, or if you feel judged, or if you feel like you have to perform. It is the feeling of letting your guard down because you know the people around you have your back.
This connects back to that idea of reciprocity. The source makes a really strong argument here. They state the law of reciprocity as, and I'm quoting, "I cannot be truly at ease if I know you are suffering."
Think about the implications of that. Just sit with that for a second. It completely challenges the selfish nature of comfort.
It does. Let's use an example. We are at a restaurant, and I get a great meal. It's hot, it's delicious, but your meal comes out cold and inedible.
A classic scenario.
If I just ignore your situation and happily eat my perfect meal, am I comfortable?
According to this law, no. You can't be, because the social contract is broken. My empathy, my awareness of your state interrupts my comfort. I'm sitting there watching you poke at a sad, cold steak. How can I possibly enjoy my own?
So true comfort is actually an act of altruism.
That is the reframe. That's the whole pivot.
It's not just I'm going to make myself feel good. It's I'm going to make sure you feel good so that we can feel good.
Exactly. It creates an interdependence. The architecture is built on noticing the needs of others and proactively addressing them.
The source gives some really specific small-scale examples of what this looks like in practice, because I think people get overwhelmed thinking they need to solve their friend's emotional trauma to be comfortable.
Oh, yeah. It sounds like a huge burden.
But it's not that deep.
It's usually much simpler. It's the micro adjustments, the little things.
Like offering a jacket.
Right, offering a jacket. That is such a primal example of this in action. Someone is cold. You address the physical discomfort. You are stabilizing their temperature, which stabilizes their mood, which in turn stabilizes the group. It's a tiny act with a huge ripple effect.
But they also mention a social example, which I found really touching. Noticing someone who was left out of a conversation and bringing them in.
That is a powerful form of comfort. We often focus on physical comfort, temperature, hunger, seating. But social discomfort is incredibly toxic.
Yeah.
That feeling of exclusion, of hovering on the edge of a circle.
Oh, it's physically painful. We have all been there. Standing with a drink in your hand, smiling, but nobody is looking at you. Your heart rate goes up. It triggers a very deep rejection sensitivity.
It does. It's an ancient fear, being cast out of the group. And the collective architecture of comfort means that if I am in that circle and I see you hovering, I have a duty to open the circle.
A duty, that's a strong word.
I would argue yes. If we are building this structure together, it's my job to say, hey, we were just talking about, and make a space for you.
And what does that do?
By bringing you in, I resolve your anxiety. Your shoulders drop. You stop broadcasting awkwardness and start broadcasting engagement. The whole group vibe lifts. Everyone relaxes a little more.
It's like stress relief engineering. You are spotting the structural weak points in the social vibe. Oh, Dave looks cold, or Sarah looks lonely, and you are reinforcing them.
And by doing that, you aren't just being nice. You are securing your own environment. You are creating a space where you can relax because you aren't subconsciously scanning for distress signals anymore. Your nervous system can finally stand down.
That is a fascinating way to look at it. It makes kindness seem almost strategic.
Well, in a philosophical sense, it is.
Yeah.
It is a sustainable strategy for coexistence. It's enlightened self-interest.
Speaking of strategy and sustainability, I want to pivot to the next big section of the source material because there is a trap here, isn't there?
A huge one.
We've talked about comfort as this warm, fuzzy, shared thing, but the source material comes from the Advanced Learner Studio.
Right. The audience here isn't looking to hibernate. They are not satisfied with the status quo. They're looking to grow.
Exactly. They are ambitious. And for that demographic, and I think for many of our listeners, there is a natural suspicion of comfort.
We are taught that comfort is the enemy of progress. It's the opposite of ambition.
Get out of your comfort zone. No pain, no gain. Feel the burn. If you are comfortable, you are stagnating. You're being lazy.
Right.
The source material addresses this head on. They talk about the Part 3 concept of stepping out of the comfort zone.
And they acknowledge that it's a necessary friction. You cannot learn a new language or build a muscle or master a skill without some degree of friction. That is undeniable.
But the source warns that there is a dangerous line, especially for high achievers who I think are particularly susceptible to this. We tend to fetishize the pain.
We do.
We think if we aren't suffering, we aren't working hard enough. If it doesn't hurt, it doesn't count.
This is where they introduce the crucial distinction between constructive discomfort and simple self-punishment.
Constructive discomfort. Let's break that down. What does that actually mean?
It is discomfort with a purpose. It is the soreness after a good workout, which signals muscle growth. It is the headache you get when you are really concentrating on a complex problem.
I know that headache well.
Me too. That discomfort signals that capacity is expanding. The system is under load because it is upgrading. It's a sign of positive adaptation.
Versus punishment.
Versus running on a broken ankle.
Yeah.
That is not constructive. That is damage. Or studying for 12 hours straight without water or sleep. That isn't learning. That is inducing cognitive decline.
But the text argues that it is very, very difficult in the moment to spot the difference.
It's incredibly hard.
We often push through the damage because we think it is just the cost of doing business. Our culture rewards that kind of self-flagellation.
We confuse grit with masochism. We think being tough means ignoring clear signals from our body and mind that we're heading for a cliff.
The source has a quote that I think is really important here. They say, "It is not a sign of weakness to say, I have reached my limit today. I need to retreat to my sanctuary."
That word sanctuary is vital. It's so important.
Why?
Because it implies that comfort isn't a permanent state of laziness. It is a recovery room. It's a strategic retreat. You go there to heal, to recharge, to integrate the learning so that you can go back out and face the constructive discomfort again tomorrow.
It's the difference between being a warrior and being a martyr. A warrior rests to fight again. A martyr just burns out.
Or the stoic hero, as the text calls it.
Yes. The stoic hero fallacy. Let's deep dive into this because I think I'm so guilty of this, and I know a lot of people who are. Section 4 is all about this archetype.
We have this cultural script, especially in professional circles, but really everywhere, that says endurance is a virtue in and of itself.
Yeah.
That ignoring the pebble in your shoe makes you stronger.
Right. Just tough it out.
The source completely rejects this. It calls it a fallacy.
They say you don't need to be a stoic hero all the time.
It's almost a relief to hear it, isn't it?
Correct.
It feels like permission.
It is, but they go further. They give these specific permissions, which frankly felt radical just reading them. They say, if the shoes hurt, change them.
It sounds so obvious. It's almost comically simple.
But how many times have we sat through a dinner or a meeting or a walk in active physical pain just because we didn't want to make a fuss?
Or because we thought it didn't matter. I can take it, as if there's some reward for enduring pointless discomfort.
And the other examples they give, the movie night. If the movie night is making you restless, go for a walk.
Instead of just sitting there, trapped on the couch, building up this internal resentment and fidgeting.
Or the conversation. This one's huge. If the conversation is draining you, politely excuse yourself.
These are assertions of agency. The stoic hero accepts the environment as it is and endures it. They're passive. The comfort architect, to use our term, alters the environment to suit their needs. They're active participants in their own well-being.
And the source argues that this isn't being high maintenance or selfish, it's being sustainable.
That is the key word, sustainability. The text says, prioritizing your well-being is not selfish, it is sustainable.
They use the metaphor of energy reserves. I found this really helpful.
It's a great metaphor. Think of your daily energy like a phone battery or a bank account.
Right.
Every act of endurance, especially pointless endurance, costs you something. Yeah. If you spend 20% of your battery just enduring tight shoes and another 30% enduring a boring conversation you hate,
you have used half your energy on things that don't matter at all.
Exactly. And then when the real challenge comes, the difficult project at work, the complex negotiation, the emotional crisis with a friend, you're empty. You're running on fumes.
You have nothing left in the tank.
You've got nothing. So, resting or changing your shoes or leaving the party early is a strategic move. You are protecting the asset, and the asset is you, your energy, your focus, your resilience.
I love that. Protecting the asset. It completely takes the guilt out of it. It frames self-care not as an indulgence, but as a prerequisite for high performance.
You rest so that you can face future challenges. It is about balance, not avoidance.
It's not about never doing hard things. It's about saving your energy for the hard things that actually matter.
Right. If you burn out because you were too proud to say, I'm tired, you aren't a hero. You're just a casualty of your own ego.
Oof, that hits home. A casualty of your own ego. But it's so true. We act like we have infinite resources and we don't.
And acknowledging that limit requires a certain level of precision, a certain awareness. Which brings us to the final layer of the source material, which I found really surprising.
The importance of vocabulary.
The importance of having the right words.
This was a surprising turn in the text. You don't usually expect a discussion on comfort to turn into a linguistics lesson, but Section 5 is all about the vocabulary of physical sensations.
It makes sense when you think about the collective architecture. If comfort is something we build together, we need blueprints. And words are the blueprints. You can't collaborate without a shared language.
They list out specific words. They contrast negative sensations, feeling cramped or itchy,
with positive ones, like feeling like a fish in water or the relief of a warm hug.
So why do you think they focus on such specific words? Why isn't just saying, I feel bad enough?
Well, bad is generic. It's useless, practically speaking.
Bad is low resolution. Bad doesn't give anyone the information they need to help you. If you tell me you feel bad, I don't know if you are hungry, tired, angry, or having a full-blown existential crisis.
Right. I don't know what the solution is. Do I get you a sandwich? Do I leave you alone?
But if I say I feel cramped.
Okay, now I have data. I know you need space. Maybe physical space, maybe mental space. I can ask, do you want to step outside for a minute?
If I say I feel itchy.
I know you are irritated, you are restless, something is agitating you. Maybe it's the conversation, maybe it's the tag on your shirt. But now we have a starting point.
And if I say you feel like a fish out of water.
I know you're suffering from alienation or imposter syndrome. You feel like you don't belong here.
Yes. The treacherous waters mentioned in the text. They specifically bring up social awkwardness and imposter syndrome as things that need to be named.
Because imposter syndrome is a very specific type of discomfort. It's the feeling of being a fraud, of not belonging, and just being able to say, I'm having a real bout of imposter syndrome right now is incredibly powerful.
Why? What does naming it do?
It externalizes it. It takes this vague, terrifying feeling inside you, and it puts it on the table as a known phenomenon. It gives it a shape. And once it has a shape, you can deal with it. And I could help you deal with it.
This goes back to their quote, language is about more than just definitions. It's about communicating the nuance of the human experience.
Exactly. You cannot have that collective comfort, that architecture we talked about at the beginning, without the language to communicate your internal state with some degree of precision.
That makes total sense. If comfort is an exchange, a dance, I need to be able to tell you what I need. And you need to be able to tell me. If I can't articulate that I'm feeling drained, you might keep pushing me to party, thinking you're being friendly and helping.
And that leads to a mismatch, a misalignment of needs, which creates more discomfort. Precision bridges that gap.
The text uses the example of a blistering hike versus a leisurely stroll.
Both are walking. But those words carry entirely different universes of expectation.
They really do.
If I invite you for a walk, and you think it's a stroll, and I take you on a blistering hike, I have broken the contract of comfort. I haven't set the expectation. Our shared reality has fractured.
It really circles back to that idea of connection, doesn't it? The more precise I can be about my inner world, the more you can understand it, and the more we can build that shared safety together.
And that is the ultimate goal, to move from an isolated, undefined state of being into a shared, articulated, and supported way of living.
So let's try to synthesize all of this. We have covered a huge amount of ground in this deep dive.
We have. It's a lot of threads to pull together.
We started with the physical, the shoes, the sweatpants, the temperature of the room.
And we realized that those physical sensations are the baseline, but they are contagious. Your physical state impacts the social vibe. It leaks.
Then we moved to the social dynamics, the idea of hygge as a collective safety net, the law of reciprocity, I can't be comfortable if you aren't.
Which reframed comfort from a selfish act into an act of altruism and empathy, a fundamental part of being in a community.
Then we had to tackle the philosophy of work and rest, the no pain, no gain myth versus the reality of sustainability.
Learning to distinguish between constructive growing pains and destructive injury, and having the courage to stop before the injury happens.
And finally, the tool we use to manage all of this, language. The power of saying exactly what we feel so we can get exactly what we need and give others what they need.
It is a comprehensive system. It turns comfort from a passive luxury you stumble upon into an active skill you cultivate.
That is the core lesson here, isn't it? Comfort is a skill. It's something you practice.
Absolutely. The source ends with that thought. The more you practice, the more comfortable you will become. You practice noticing others. You practice respecting your own limits. You practice articulating your needs. It is a muscle that gets stronger with use.
I love that. You don't just get comfortable, you get good at comfort.
That is a perfect way to put it. You build a mastery of it.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with a final thought, something to really chew on that connects back to that emotional contagion idea we started with.
Go for it.
If we accept that our mood is contagious, that we are constantly broadcasting a signal, then we have to ask ourselves, what is the signal I am broadcasting right now?
That is the question. A very confronting one.
If you are stressed, if you are rushing, if you are holding your breath while you answer emails, you are polluting your own environment. You are making the people around you tense, which then reflects back and makes you more tense. It's a vicious feedback loop.
So the most selfish thing you can do, in the best possible way, is to take care of yourself so that your broadcast signal is one of calm and safety.
Exactly. Change the shoes, get a glass of water, take a deep breath. Not just for your feet or your thirst, but for the sake of everyone who has to exist in your orbit.
A powerful thought to end on.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the architecture of comfort. It has been a fascinating discussion.
A pleasure as always. Really made me think.
We'll see you next time. Stay comfortable, everyone.
Take care.